Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Roscoe.
Present.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember London.
Here.
Vice Mayor McCormick.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Here.
Councilmember Sardinius.
Here.
Councilmember Vasquez. Here. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Vice Mayor, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, with us this evening is an invocation by Pastor Dennis Eastling with the Key Biscayne Community Church.
Let us pray together. Our gracious God, there are some here today who seek you on a daily basis. There are some here today who haven't sought you in quite some time. There are some here today who don't even believe in your existence. It doesn't change who you are. Lord, we are grateful for this beautiful community that you have so graciously allowed us to be part of. Father, I ask tonight, as decisions are made, as thoughts are provoked, as the leaders of our community decide which direction you would have us to go. And so we pray tonight for wisdom. We pray for grace and mercy. We pray, God, that you would give us decisiveness and that it would better and honor you and better and honor our community and the people who live in this community. God, we know and believe with all of our hearts that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so we must pray for our leaders. We pray, God, for their health, their well-being, mentally, physically. We ask, God, that you would give them strength. Thank you, God, for their service. Thank you for them wanting to be part of making the decisions for this place, make it a better place. And so we ask, God, that everything that is said and done tonight would bring honor to you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is brief comments by council.
So before anything, I want to wish a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, good tidings to all. Anybody else?
Really appreciated our patience and persistence at the menorah lighting. It took effort. I wanted to just mention the Dominican Republic event that occurred last Saturday. Brett and I were very warmly welcomed. It's a really lovely event. They were grateful that the village of Key Biscayne was able to participate, and we were glad to be there.
Great. All right. Nobody else?
Next item is public comments.
You know, I wanted to make one more comment before, but you know what? No, I'll keep it. No, never mind.
Okay.
I'll save it to the next one.
Eduardo von Simon. By the way, you know this item's not on the agenda, right?
I know.
Okay. Go ahead.
Eduardo Von Simpson, 101 Ocean Lane Drive, apartment 2012. Yesterday there was a meeting by the evaluation committee to hear bidders about RFP 2023-15 about the youth soccer. The flyer read public meeting. I attended, but I was told to leave because the committee needed to hear the bids or the bidders for the RFP. But I thought that since it was, and it mentioned public meeting, this is a public meeting, no, it's open to the public. So that was the first one, to my surprise. Then, while the time I was there, I saw the members of the committee, and I was thinking to myself, okay, how do these people know about soccer? And they're going to probably decide or which bidders are for grabs. I know by reading and hearsay that there are 5 bidders, the incumbents, plus 4 more. Only 3 appeared yesterday because I waited to see who these people were. I recognized some familiar faces, the people from Miramar, which are also the LaSalle coaches, former employees of the incumbents, Augusto and Jackie, and then there were 2 that were missing. So then my question was, okay, in a bidding process, usually the playing field should be transparent and equal to everybody. So why 3 today and then the other 2, I don't know when? I heard that one of them was Juventus. We already knew a couple of years ago what the Milan fiasco was here for the village of Key Biscayne. So I was wondering, why are they still there? I don't know who the 5th is. But then in one of the other presenters, I noticed some familiar faces. And then it struck me that one of the people that were with Mr. Granados and Ms. Kellogg was someone that is already employed by the foundation at the KBC K8. So he's a coach that I assume is getting paid a salary by one of the council members here. So why was he in the bidding process? My question was, wasn't that a conflict of interest? So, but since I was not in the meeting, I didn't hear the presentation. So, but it struck me because I saw it with my eyes. So that's something that raised an eyebrow on me. But I think that even though the village flags transparency, this process wasn't transparent, even though it read clearly public meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
So, why couldn't people come to the meeting?
So we'll deal with it.
Okay.
Let me finish all the comments.
Thank you.
Pamela Ben.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Ben. I live at Galen Drive, 240 Galen Drive, apartment 115. In addition to being a resident of Key Biscayne, I also manage Kala Plumber. My partner is Charles Duncan. He is the owner of Kala Plumber. He is a Key Biscayne resident, born and raised 64 years. We have had the privilege of doing the plumbing work for most of the village since 2009 when Charles restarted his company. I'm here today to ask you to not approve the resolution to hire UG2 LCC to take over the facilities management and maintenance service of the village. Now, I would have this position even as a resident of Key Biscayne, not just because we have taken care of the plumbing. I feel that this company is based in West Palm Beach. To hire an outside company who's also going to hire outside contractors to take care of the village electrical, plumbing, HVAC, they don't have the commitment and dedication that somebody as a resident of Key Biscayne who lived here his whole life, who's invested in the community, cares, and the detail. We work with village employees such as Angel Blanco and Nada Diaz, John Strauss, which is part of Coastal, and also Todd and David, and they call us for jobs, and we're right there as fast as possible. We have a commitment to the community, and I feel that fiscally it just will not make sense to pay them $313,000 a year to oversee these jobs, the jobs that need to be done. When you have people on the ground, you have these eyes and ears on the ground to see things, and we can respond rapidly. Plus, we know the infrastructure in detail, the pump systems, which are complex. Charles, as a resident, when he's walking around, he sees things. For example, he went for a beach walk on a Saturday, and at the beach park, the pump was very low on water. If he hadn't seen it, luckily he did, it would have burned out. It would have cost you thousands of dollars. So that is added value to your community to have someone who's here. And also, I want to quickly mention the electrician who does your electrical work. L&M Electrical, George Tapia. It's a family-owned business. His father started that company, and now he takes care of it. And I see George many nights, 7, 8, 11, 9, late at night working at the Village Green or at the Lake Park or at the Monaco Fountains doing your electrical work. He's committed to your community, and that matters. Instead of having somebody that's going to come from Fort Lauderdale to do your plumbing one day, and you have another plumber who's available to do the job the next day. They don't know your community, and that matters. So I hope that you'll please take that into consideration, because I think it's the best for the village. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, Andy Herrera.
Andy Herrera, 250 Fernwood Road, Griffin Council members, village clerk, attorney, village manager. I'm here tonight just to speak about the current youth soccer program, RFP 2023-15. I'm really concerned about the eligibility of the final vendors for this program. Now meeting the minimum criteria to provide services must be at least 2 years of continued operation, the same provider. Assignments or non-transferability of the proposal cannot be done to bend the program. Having a joint venture with another provider, with a different company to be approved, that's not proper, and this is disqualified according to the rules. So I seen it as a contractor, which is the Key Biscayne Soccer Foundation, who is trying to do that, doesn't meet the criteria, and it was even selected for the finals. That's totally wrong. Also, I would like to speak a little bit more in details about the presenters for the program. Yesterday, presenters, they were part of the Key Biscayne Education and Children Foundation, which is one of the coaches that is Council Saldina owns that company. There is a conflict of interest having someone that is bidding for this program, which is totally not right, and we need to take a very deep look into that. And basically here also, I would like to appreciate our community. We got 1/3 of the populations that were participating in this program that they approve and they consent and they vote for the change.org petition that I did supporting the current provider. I'm really happy about the support of our community for the program. I invite you guys to make your comments and also please to support the program, the current provider, so which is positive seen. We have positive results. There's not even a wrong answer or a negative response to the petition. What else I can do? Also, I'm really concerned about the new changes coming for the golf carts policy, which I would like to speak later on when it comes into the table. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaker is Jenna Kent.
Good try.
Okay.
It's Janaea.
Janaea.
Many Americans say Janaya, but it is Janaea. I'm
Janaea.
Australian, and I'm a new resident of Key Biscayne
Well, welcome to Key Biscayne.
and Key Colony. Thank you.
And your last name and
Janaea
address?
Kent, 201 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you.
Key Biscayne, 3149. Thank you for the opportunity today. I just wanted to come and speak about something that I'm quite passionate about. I am Australian. I've grown up on the beach my whole life. My husband's from Philly, but don't hold that against him. And we spent the last 5 years down under. My kids were born in Cali. And Florida became our new home last year. And we've been living downtown, Edgewater, Wynwood, and it was not a great place for kids while we figured out our next steps, and the energy was very different to what we're used to coming from Australia, where we had lots of space and lots of trees and nature and the beach, obviously. So our plan was to move to Key Biscayne, and we finally got here a year later in September, and we were so excited to have access to the beach on our doorstep. Maybe I'm naive, but I didn't even think about water pollution or water safety at all, because in Australia we have beautiful, pristine beaches, free of pollution, and granted, a lot less people than America. However, I was really surprised to find out that there was an issue with water quality here that can happen, and that there wasn't really a system that I knew of at Key Colony. And I kind of found out through word of mouth and the chats when the water contamination levels were up. And I found out myself as well. And I was really surprised that there wasn't a better communication system. So once I found this out, I really wanted to advocate for the residents, because I think that this is really something that, as a mother of 2 young kids, we came here for this. The beach is such a beautiful place, and I can see how much it means to your community, and I love it here. But I think that something as simple as a red flag at every entrance, when somebody down the road is getting that message and we're not, and the kids are playing in the beach and I'm wondering why no one's there, it was just something that I had to find out the hard way. And I think it would really benefit everyone in the community if we could have notification and regular updates and a proper communication channel and system to know when the water safety, when the water's not safe for public use. So thank you.
Thank you
for
very
listening.
much.
Thank you for listening.
Again, welcome. Okay.
The next item.
No. One more. Taima Urbas.
You got me.
Yes.
Good evening. Hello again. I hope you're all well. First, I want to thank you for the wonderful holiday celebrations. I've been enjoying concerts.
And your name and address, I'm sorry.
Oh, and I'll get there. Just a quick thank you first.
Okay.
But I am Taima Hervas. I live at 250 Galen, apartment 54. I've lived here off and on for over 30 years. And I do want to stick with my thank yous for the holidays celebrations. I also want to do a big shout out to the fire department and to Chief Lang. Without them, I don't think my mother would be here, and certainly not as well as she is doing right now. We did not have an elevator, and for over 6 months in our little building, 1 elevator building, and we stayed out of town for 5 months. We came back, it still wasn't operational, and they carried my mother up after every doctor's visit, after everything. They literally carried her up. So thank you to every one of them. I would do their names, but then I could not move on to what I'm here to talk about. But thank you to our fire department. So thank you, Shania, for all of your great words. A lot of that is, I think, on the back of what I'm trying to do. I wrote to you last Monday. I sent everybody here, I believe, a copy of a petition asking for a red flag system for no swim when the bacterial levels are so high that we're not passing either with the Department of Health, and also the water keepers are, of course, testing the waters. I moved here, I think as many of us did, for Island Paradise, for walking on the beaches, for swimming. I walk every single day. And I think I almost always found out after the fact. I would go swimming, I would come out, and I would find out that there had been a no swim, that there had been a sewage spill, that there had been runoff, that there had been bacteria from the Sargassum, and that there were just many times where it was not safe to swim after I had already swum. And I felt that it wouldn't be that unusual, and it would only be helpful to prevent such a public safety hazard. And I would like to put it to you that you do start a red flag system. I know that I don't need to petition in order to speak here, and I appreciate you welcoming me. But I did put out a petition that I shared with you. To date, we have 570 signatures, which I found to be rather overwhelming reception and a sense of commitment and care for our community and for the people who come here as visitors to swim. They have no way of knowing that it's not safe to swim on the day. So with my 570 signatures and some wonderful comments, and I've shared the link with you. I can share it again to anyone that needs it. I'm proposing that we just hang these little flags up everywhere. It's a no swim flag. I'll put it here so I don't see my time, which is running out. And I think that's our first step, and then I hope you can feel the urgency of it. I have done quite a great deal of research. I don't think this is the time for it. I think this is really just to bring up the subject with yourselves. I have spoken with water keepers. I'm very aware of what the testing involves, that the first level is a very cheap and simple test for bacteria, that bacteria could have something to do with human fecal matter, which is the worst thing, which would come from untreated sewage spills, which in the most part seem to happen through human error. Something, you know, a contractor might break something and then we have a spill. But more often than not, it's things that cannot be controlled. And with, as we know, climate change and more flooding and more reasons, we have often this instance where it's not safe to swim in our waters. And so we use the simplest test to test and the cheapest. There is another more expensive test that can be done. And I personally would like to suggest we test more often. We use the tracking test, microbial tracking. Am I over? I'm not looking at me.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was a neat trick to put the thing on top of the red button. I like that trick.
The red flag says it. So, I mean, I think we could do better testing. I think we should, more than anything, let people know not to swim. This doesn't scare me. When I see this, if I were to go swimming, this would just tell me to look into it, to research. Why shouldn't I swim? And then once I know more, once it becomes transparent, I think I would advocate more. And I think you would have a lot of people saying, thank you if you put this up.
Okay.
Show us the flag again.
Mm-hmm.
Show us the flag again. Only if I can.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
The next item is the agenda. Approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Okay. Let's add later on a small discussion on the red flag and clarification on the issue of the meeting for whenever that was earlier. Soccer, yeah.
Mayor, on that item, I would prefer if we don't discuss that, but instead present it to you guys at the January meeting when it's before you properly, because I think that that's an ongoing process right now, and I think that we should keep the procurement process where it is.
Okay. Can you just, well, we'll ask you later just to talk about meeting procedures without referencing that RFP, okay?
Okay.
My question is, now this is a public meeting, is this a mistake? It's not a public meeting?
I don't think we should get into it. There's more complicating factors. It is a public meeting, but there are certain exceptions for public meetings. But again, I think it's important for you to have the full item before you as opposed to piecemealing it right now in the middle of a process.
Chad, but this is just brought up. People are thinking, hey.
I understand, but right now that item is still, it's a procurement process that is going to come before you. It's not finalized, and I think that you guys should have the benefit of the full presentation by the staff on the matter.
Okay. So again, you said it's a public meeting with exceptions.
First of all,
a public meeting?
First of all, I wasn't at the meeting myself. I don't know if Darren is here. Second, there are exemptions for certain procurement matters under Florida law from public meetings during oral presentations. But again, I think that it's in the best interest of the village to wait until you have the full information in front of you so you can have a full discussion on it.
All I'm saying is that we talk about transparency, we talk about openness, we talk about a public meeting, and people don't come. where they do come, and they can't get in, what is our policy? And I'm saying our policy, not the committee that's selecting the people, but us as a council. Do we want to let people, residents, listen even though they can't participate, to see what's happening? I mean, that's really, I think, our decision.
Yeah.
But again, it's an ongoing process, and I think that when it gets to you, that you should, maybe you want to refer it back, but at this point, I think you need to let the process continue.
On advice of council.
Just a last word, we're not interested, I think, in talking about the process or the analysis that will lead to a decision on the part of the selectors. We're interested in responding to disappointment expressed by some of the residents who intended to go to a public meeting and participate and were rebuffed. Not to get into the decision-making, but to deal with that question.
I think that the only thing I can tell you is that there's, for example, an executive session is noticed as a public meeting, and then you as a council go into a shade session as an exemption under Florida law. There are public meetings that are announced, like solicitation meetings, there are exemptions when presentations are made. So just because a meeting is made public, that doesn't mean aspects of the meeting may not be public.
My question.
Okay, Ed, wait.
Can I just ask then, I understand that our village attorney feels like there's parts of this that we need to wait to talk about, but I think what I'm hearing is that this entire body is concerned of the comments that we heard, and if we have to wait till the next meeting, I'll wait, but I want to make sure that we have a very clear explanation of what happened and why, especially, I mean, Brett and Frank and I sat here when we had a really horrible incident happen with a resident being thrown out of a public meeting, resulted in a criminal investigation. Like, I just want to make sure that we're doing things right. So if you say we need to wait, I'll wait, but I want to get answers when we talk about it.
Number one, I wasn't there because, I don't attend.
Well, but if we wait,
selection
you have a
committees.
month to find out.
Yes, that's correct.
I just wanted to add one thing that I heard that someone said, I think twice, that we pay somebody from the K-8 or paying somebody from the foundation in a conflict of interest. And I just want to make it clear that there's nobody on the village's payroll that I know of that works at the school or the foundation. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, that that's not going around.
So, I think
Ed.
there's nothing to do with Chad, with us. What is our policy? Do we want things open so people can attend and see what's happening? Even if they can't participate, they can be there, see presentations. They're curious. I mean, it's our policy to keep that away from the public. And that's what really gets down to.
Yeah. And it's not our policy, so.
Right.
And it's not our policy to.
Well, what is our policy?
Yeah.
It's our policy to determine whether people can come to meetings.
Right, Ed, but our policy is also constrained by the state of Florida laws, by the county laws, so whatever that
I
is,
understand.
we are.
Chad, is there any law that says we can't keep meetings open to the public?
Yes, there is a law.
Saying what?
There is a law that says that in a competitive solicitation, when presentations are made, there are aspects of that meeting that is not subject to the public in order for other people don't get a competitive advantage. That's the intent, right? And there's other exemptions. I mean, like I said before, there's an executive section exemption. There's exemptions when we're talking about security systems. There are plenty of exemptions.
I understand. That's not what I'm saying.
I understand.
I'm saying, is there anything that forbids us from keeping it open to the public? In this kind of situation, that's all I'm asking.
I think that in this circumstance, I want to review the state law in light of that. I think that there's different provisions that need to be looked at, whether you can act contrary to the state law exemption. I want to look at that.
So you're saying that possibly the state law says we can't keep it open?
There is a state law that says that, yes, that people are entitled to an exemption. What typically happens is that you'll hold a public meeting and you say, you know, the vendors don't want to stay anyways because they don't want to give a competitive advantage to the others. But I don't know what happened at this meeting. I was not there. I can't speak to it. All I can tell you is that we're in the middle of a procurement process, and I stress to you that we should wait until we have a full-blown discussion with all of the appropriate information in front of you.
Who determines the exemptions?
The legislature determines exemptions.
No, to this meeting, do we decide this is exempt, or we don't decide it's exempt? Or is they say by statute that it's exempt?
They would state that under Florida law, this, you know, portion of the meeting is exempt. That's what they would say. But again, I was not there. Now, whether you can be more restrictive, if that's the right word, is something that I'll look at for you.
Or more
okay?
flexible.
Or more flexible.
Thank you.
So.
All right.
So we're going to add red flags, but not, we'll
Correct.
And I would like to request to remove from the consent agenda the October 20 minutes. I'd like to pull that
You're gonna pull it?
for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the consent agenda.
Move.
Second.
Item is before us properly. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida concerning the village's stormwater project relating to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the amendment to loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflicts, severability, and effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion on the ordinance. Mr. London.
Make this clear, we're applying for the money, but we don't have to use the money until we decide on what we're gonna do. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It's a line of credit.
Okay.
Quick question, if I may, on that. Is there a deliverable that needs to be complied to before the money's received? Are we subject to a timeline before we contribute our part? Is the grant subject to a timeline to be used?
Yes, there's a period of performance. The state revolving fund, if you need an extension, is usually fairly flexible if needing an extension.
Okay. So when do we know that we'll have this grant kind of floating? When do we think we're going to insert the matching funds for it?
There's no matching funds. It's a loan. No, it's just a loan. So once this is approved on second reading, I'll submit the full loan application with this ordinance that's been signed, along with our financial information and a few other forms we have to fill out. They'll give us the loan agreement to sign. We'll sign it. We'll send it back to them. They'll sign it. At that point, it's been executed, and we can start to be reimbursed for work related to that scope all the way back to August 8th, I think, this year.
Okay. So we have some time grandfather, but how much did you say the time was? Would you remind me how many years before performance?
I'll have to double check on the years. I think it's 2, but I'll need to double check. I'll need to review that.
I mean, some of these loans are great. We just got to make sure they're performing.
But the other thing is I need to check to see if that period of performance starts on August 8th or if it starts when the loan is executed. So I'll get back to you on that.
Quick question then.
Yes.
What you just spoke about. Are we using any of this loan for anything that has already been done at this time, or are we waiting until we approve this work order before any of this funds will be used?
The loan is for 30 to 100% design, which has not been brought to you yet. Yes.
So that still has to come to us for a decision on what that's going to be,
Correct.
which will determine how much the loan is going to be up to the maximum that we're approving tonight.
We have the max set for the loan.
Yeah.
If it ends up being lower in the full scope of work, then we just don't use the full loan.
And the last question I have is, this needs a supermajority vote because it's a loan, Chad, or no?
I think that this is, the funds being to repay the loan are coming from the stormwater utility.
Yeah.
Then I don't believe that requires a supermajority.
Okay. Any other discussion on the ordinance from the dais? Okay, let me open the public hearing on 9A. Public hearing is open. Seeing no one come forward on public hearing 9A, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item is a first reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Chapter 30, Zoning and Land Development Regulations of the Village Code of Ordinances by creating Section 30-114, Public Stormwater Utility Uses, to allow public stormwater utility uses as a permitted use in zoning districts within the village, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Ordinance is moved and seconded before us. Mr. Attorney, we open for public hearing also, or that's only on the second?
No, we open for a public hearing since it's an amendment to the zoning code per our zoning code.
Okay, public hearing is open on tab 6, 9B. Seeing no one come forward, public hearing is closed. Discussion on the item by council. Mr. Kaplan.
My one, maybe two reactions. I think we need to do this, number one, and I support the result.
Okay.
Without qualification. The notion that the land use element in the comp plan doesn't permit this type of thing, which is in the supporting memo for parks, obviously creates a circular problem if we're going to be in compliance with the land use element, which causes me to think that we ought to amend the land use element to be consistent with the zoning revision. The second insight that I thought about a lot yesterday and today is the aesthetic effect that a lot of people are concerned about, with understandable reason, that we make these decisions, but we do so in a way that is designed to minimize the degradation of what's intended still to be the primary purpose, which is a beautiful green place. And I don't know that this automatically fits within anything that has to do with site plan review, but some type of an analogy to just good design and deference to the primary park purpose when it's a park, I think would really help both for guidance and clarity for future councils and the comfort of the community.
Okay, so are you intending to work on an amendment to improve that somehow, or?
I think for second reading, we have an opportunity to just, it's simple thought.
All right.
You know, and I can help with that, but I think the point is self-evident.
Okay. Mr. Director.
Good evening, Jeremy Karras-Gauger, Director of BZP. So I want to make sure we're clear that anything that would require site plan review still has to go through that full process. So there still would be scrutiny. I think if there's any doubt, you know, I think I can work with Chad to make sure that anything that includes public utility would have to go, so it's not seen as a minor modification to an existing site plan or something like that, that it wouldn't be scrutinized. But as it stands, this is just enabling zoning, so any work, any site plan, anything else goes through all of our otherwise normal processes. Regarding the first question about parks and office being exempt, we would need to come back and alter the comp plan for those. Although it's worth noting that for Harbor Park in particular, that's a government use as of now. Although, you know, I would be supportive of eventually changing it to parks once we also know that we can include the stormwater utility in that location, because the designation as parks would further limit what could be built there. Because, you know, technically speaking, there's a number of types of buildings that could be built under that zoning designation, even though there's no intent to. So that would be a further way to cement that. And of course, anything has to come back for site plan review.
I think just my instinct is that site plan review is just a bit of a blunt instrument for this particular consideration. And some wordsmithing around aesthetics and minimal disruption to the extent feasible, achievable, consistent with purpose would be helpful.
If I could just add one thing that might help to give you some comfort. This item is limited to public stormwater utilities. The only public stormwater utility is the village, in the village. So, you could obviously be controlling the aesthetics of your own facility.
Yes, I appreciate that.
So,
Okay, further discussion on the ordinance before us on first reading. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McCormick?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Article 2, Chapter 26, Golf Carts of the Village Code of Ordinances relating to golf cart use within the village, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Thank
Then
you.
moved and second, the items before us. Let's go to a public hearing on this for first reading. Come forward.
Andy Herrera, 250 Fernwood Road. I'm really concerned about this ordinance, especially not allowing or not letting adults drive without a license. We know that many people come to the U.S. with no experience of driving. They don't know that much about our traffic laws and regulations and the risks in our community. So for accidents, we will increase our health car insurance mainly. Also, having golf carts only requiring to have the brake lights and the signal lights only from sunset to be operational. That has to be required to having 24 hours having the brake lights and the signals for those golf carts because that will create an accident. So this is a big concern. I know that we are concerned about our kids driving golf carts, but and they have to have a license. But I'm really concerned about people not knowing the laws and having experience. That what they can create. Accidents, and we want to avoid that. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you very much. Other speakers on this ordinance on first reading? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Village Attorney, this is your item. You want to walk us through what we're doing here?
Sure. During this past legislative session, as we talked about at the last meeting, the legislature enacted House Bill 949, which amended the golf cart statute. What it did mainly that affects our village is that it allows that people who operate a golf cart, you have to be, well, let me see, it's written in the negative, so I'll read the statute. A golf cart may not be operated on public roads or streets by a person who is under the age of 18 unless he or she possesses a valid learner's driver's license or valid driver's license. A golf cart may also not be operated on public roads who is 18 of age or older unless he or she possesses a valid form of government-issued photographic identification. So basically, to operate a golf cart, if you're under 18 years of age, you have to have a learner's license or a driver's license. Now, there was a discussion at the last meeting about whether the requirements of a learner's license that are typically required when you drive a car would apply to a golf cart. It's our opinion that it would. And and then, as I said before, the other category of people who can now drive is people that are 18 years of age or older that have a valid government-issued ID.
Okay. Let's start here with Mr. Sardinius, and then Mr. Moss, and then Madam Vice Mayor, and then Mr. London.
Is there anything precluding us from an adult also needing a driver's license to drive a golf cart? Because it sounds here like you don't need a driver's license if you're over 18.
If you're over 18, you only need a government-issued photograph.
Why would we not need a driver's license if over 18?
The state law is saying that if you're over, I think what it said, if for whatever reason you don't have a driver's license, but you have a government-issued ID, that's enough, what the
So is there
legislative
anything
says.
precluding us or keeping us from going a step further?
I don't
statute?
think that we can go a step further.
So the same
Here.
thing with, for instance, the brake lights?
Well, the brake lights was actually just something that was being carried over that's been in the Florida statutes that we were just carrying over because our ordinance hadn't carried those items forward. So that's in the law already.
So to clarify, we don't need brake lights during the day? Because
Correct.
I was under the impression that when we.
Brake lights, well, no. Well, I will read you what the law says on that, if you give me 1 second.
You mean the state law or our code?
Yeah, the state law.
Because our code requires brake lights, full stop.
No.
When we register our
Yes.
golf carts, they check brake lights, they check headlights, they check turn signals. It would seem silly for us to suggest that you don't need brake lights during the day.
That's not what we're suggesting. Okay?
Okay,
What you're seeing here is not the whole ordinance, number one.
got it.
But let me read to you first what the state law requires. The state law requires that a golf cart be equipped with efficient brakes, reliable steering, safety tires, a rear view mirror, and a reflective warning device. Okay?
Okay.
Now, it also says that if you're going to allow golf carts at between the hours of sunrise and sunset, which we do, okay, that the golf cart is required to be equipped with headlights, brake lights, turn signals, and a windshield. So since we as a village allow golf carts to be operated between the hours of sunrise and sunset, all golf carts has to have this equipment.
Okay.
Okay. So we were just carrying forward from the state law into our ordinance, where you see the other change here.
Okay, so the idea that we are allowing golf carts to drive on our streets without brake lights is not the case.
No, we require it doesn't. No.
It's just confusing the way it's written.
Since we allow golf carts to drive between sunrise and sunset, all golf carts in the village must be equipped with headlights, brake lights, turn signals, and windshields. Period.
Okay, so it's not talking about when
It's not talking about when it's
operational
operated.
ability,
No.
right, got it.
No,
Okay.
no.
Fair.
Okay. Is that,
Yeah.
you're it, Oscar?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on all the points I was about to hit on, so I'm going to add a little bit to it. So can we clarify that in the code, what you just said? That because you can do this, they're required all the time, just so that there's clarity there? Is that possible?
We can always add clarity.
I mean, I guess sorry.
Yes. We can always add clarity.
Okay, and then my second question is, I remember in our code, and I'm not sure if we changed this the last time we brought this up, but it required a triangular reflector in the back of everybody's golf carts. And I'm not sure, I remember I had an issue with that.
It says reflector.
And because my golf cart, you really have no place to put it because that's when they had those little center pieces, and now they don't. But mine has reflectors, but they're not in the shape of a triangle. They're down on the bumper. So I just wanted to make sure if we still have that in the code and we have it, the code, the ordinance open right now, I would like to maybe add that into this as well.
I think the state statute that he just read said reflector.
Yeah,
It didn't say
that's what I heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, we did have that discussion, and we wanted to be more
Flexible.
Yeah.
I believe we took that
We already
out.
took it out? Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Is
if
the
we
chief
did,
here,
great. I
right?
just want to make sure.
I believe, I'm looking, but I believe
We did.
it's
Okay,
out.
the chief is saying we did. Excellent.
Okay. Mr. Moss,
was
is
it.
that it?
Yep.
All right, Ms. McCormick.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying about 18 and just a government issued ID because that's what's in the state statute. And I'm gonna say something that's maybe not super popular with our attorney, but we already had things in our ordinance that didn't really jive with the state statute before they did this resolution or revision. Can we just, I'm okay with voting to leave it the way we have it because I know that's what we need and it's safe, and let someone challenge us. Like, I am not comfortable, I don't care how old you are, if you don't have a driver's license and you haven't passed the motor vehicle test, our streets are so densely populated with kids on every moving vehicle, people walking with baby strollers. Like, I don't think that someone, no matter how old you are, if you don't have a driver's license, should be driving a golf cart on our streets.
Okay, what I would suggest is that, let me look at this. Because there may be an ability to, by ordinance, to address the 18 or older issue. That does. Because there is a provision in the statute that says that a golf cart operation and equipment, you can adopt more restrictive than the statute as it relates to unlicensed drivers. Okay. So. Yeah. Let me look and see, because it doesn't say the word license, it just says a form of identification. I'm happy to look at that. Great.
Yeah, that would make me feel better. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. London?
2 questions, Chad. Is Harbor Drive a county road or Village of Key Biscayne road?
Mr. Manager says it's a village road.
Village Road.
Wasn't there a different speed limit on there? And I thought that was because it was a county road and we couldn't reduce it to 20.
No, the county considers an arterial, but it's or a feeding road, but it's not a county road. It's part of the county, the loop system within Key Biscayne. So Cranon Boulevard, Harbor Drive, and West Mashta to allow there to be a loop inside of the village, but it's not a county road.
That was for transit?
Yes.
Second question is, there's no first offense for driving on Cranon Boulevard. Is that on purpose? Said you have to have a second offense before you get fined?
It says any.
Oh. When you read your chart of fines that you have, I didn't see a first offense, only a second offense.
Give me 1 second. Anywhere on a road surface of Cranon except. I don't think that's. We're just saying yes, any offense. So there's not a first offense or a second offense. It's any offense.
Listed as second offense.
No, I think what I see here is in the last portion of the ordinance. It says anywhere on a roadway surface of Crandon Boulevard except to cross the thoroughfare marked intersections or intersections regulated by a traffic signal or traffic, or to travel north or south upon Crandon pursuant to this, It says first offense, it says offenses. It says any offense. Any offense is
per state statute?
Is per state statute. Where?
That's the way I read it.
Yeah,
so it's a separate section.
Okay, so the second section.
Yeah.
It's 4 or 5.
It's actually the third section, yeah.
7, tab 7.
No, it's the second
page
section.
4.
Page 3 of 5 is the one Councilmember London's.
I'll show you.
You're correct in the other section where it starts off dealing with, there's a 3, 4, and 6 that talks about a valid permit, village traffic regulations and beaches, that there's a warning. It's only the second offense there on that one.
Okay. What, you're referring to 2624.
Yes, yes. They follow on each other. Unfortunately, you're seeing it in this format and not the code format, so it's making it a little bit challenging. Maybe what we can do on second reading is actually have it print out for everybody clear, so you could see how the offenses
That
work,
would be.
and we can tweak it.
Thank you.
Because it is a little bit, because of the underwriting and strike through and the paging, it is challenging.
No, the other ones list the money amount, most of them, And then these other ones, they talk about various statutes.
Right, because underneath the Florida statute, there's specific penalties for certain violations.
Okay.
And this was all dealt with at the last time that we amended our ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sardinha.
Just a quick question on the schedule of fines.
Got another shot at it?
The amounts.
Okay.
Is that something that's open to our discretion as well? Or is that something you have to look into?
No, we can modify the amounts. This particular ordinance wasn't really meant to do that. If you would want to do that, it is in here, and let me just read the title. I think we can modify it further if you wanted to, but that's a question that I think you'd want to have also the manager and the police chief to discuss, because I know that was something that came up a lot.
Just wondering if there might be an appetite to look at those fines, make them a bit stricter.
So we just did those not that long ago. I'm really getting very mean as I get older. I'm all for making it stricter. I'd be happy to have that discussion if you want to bring it back. I wanted to just ask Chad if you could share with people what this, I'm not really seeing it, but the violation if you are a under 18 unlicensed driver, what the consequence is. The penalty.
Yes.
The Florida statute.
It's just the
Yeah,
Florida
I know, but what
statute,
does that mean?
No, I know that. I was going to ask that exact same thing. If they can send us that information to us so we know what it is.
You would get a uniform traffic ticket. I will look and see if it's a moving violation or a non-moving. It would go through that process. I don't know the exact amount, maybe the chief does, but we can get you what the exact number is.
I think it's always good to talk about it because the kids turn 15, 16 every year, and you get a new crop of 14, 15, 16-year-olds without licenses driving golf carts. And I know we pushed really hard a few years ago to get the information out, and at that time, the strictest penalty was that you lost your right to obtain a driver's license until you were 18. And if that's still the case, I think we need to make sure that we put it out annually so each kid knows that. And I think it helps parents to say no when they have that in their pocket. I just say no.
Okay.
Just to clarify for that example, what you were referring to would be considered a non-moving violation under the Florida statute.
So a 14-year-old driving a golf cart without a license because they're not eligible is a non-moving violation?
Yeah, non-moving violation punishable pursuant to Chapter 318, yes.
Seems ironic.
So when you bring it back, can you tell us what all the...
Yeah, there's a schedule that, I don't have it offhand, but I'll work with the chief and we'll get it to you so you guys know.
Thank you.
This is why you need to vote for people in Tallahassee who believe in home rule, because our circumstances here are very particular.
That's right.
Okay, Mr. Kaplan?
Are these motor vehicles?
Golf carts are defined as a motor vehicle, yes. Now, it's defined as a motor vehicle, then other places, they don't hold it to all the same standards as a motor vehicle, but yes, it's considered a motor vehicle.
The Swiss cheese of this analysis seems very perplexing to me.
Well, I think when you have parts of Florida that are really rural and people are driving them, in neighborhoods with 5-acre lots, it's very different.
I think we've been through this a lot. Unfortunately, the legislature has adopted regulations in Chapter 316 of the Florida law, which are challenging for our village at times. So, which has created us maybe the Swiss cheese that you're referring to.
Okay, this item is on first reading. Just on a big picture, and the glass is half full. This may be the way that we get to legislating a little bit about our e-bikes and our scooters. So
Yep.
let's be positive, because this could be the same model that we use to make that happen at the state legislature. So
Maybe we can even do that at Day Days.
there you go. Madam Clerk, call the roll on first reading.
Councilmember Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Bosco?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading. The next item is a capital project authorizing ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, selecting Eastman Aggregate Enterprises LLC for the village's beach renourishment project in an amount not to exceed $2,662,352.50, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you.
The item is moved and second, properly before us. You want to give us a brief backgrounder, or?
Sure, Council. Good evening. This is specifically in relation to all the sand that was lost as a result of Hurricane Ian and Nicole, which originally was quantified at around 17,000 cubic yards. We also subsequently got another no-name, unnamed storm event November 15th, which also took off a fair bit of sand. That was estimated at upwards of 8,000 additional cubic yards, bringing a maximum loss of 25,000 cubic yards. We did just recently complete a survey that anticipates that the total is not really 25,000 cubic yards, but closer to 22 or 23,000 cubic yards. But this contract to Eastman is for a not to exceed a maximum of 25,000 cubic yards. So Eastman Aggregates was the one bidder that came before us. Procurement did contact the other companies that showed up for the pre-bid meeting. One of them indicated that they didn't feel like they had the human capital to actually do the job. The other, because of the distance, the additional distance, 30 additional miles each way, in terms of hauling the sand from the mine, didn't feel like it was going to be cost effective for them to bid. So in the end, Eastman Aggregate was the only bid that we had to go with.
Thank you.
I have a, if I may?
Question.
Mayor, thank you very much.
Mr. Vasquez.
Well, I guess, yeah, you answered my first question, because I was going to be why one bidder.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I'm a little troubled about the fact that we don't have enough competition, or folks that don't have enough manpower. It seems to me like all the work. And I'm looking, you guys got a lot of background, right? You're the contractors? Are you? No, I'm sorry. You look familiar to one of the guys here. But, yeah, I mean, it seems to me that it's a little bit discouraging, but we can't do anything about the market. But I think we could probably, it's discouraging. I guess the other thing I had too was 25,000 cubic yards. Are they intending to truck this in? Is this going to be
That will be
hauled
trucked in. That
Okay.
will be hauled in, yeah.
There's been some, and I'm not, God forbid, but there's a lot of activity on that beach. Trucks and people sunbathing don't mix very well. There's a history about that. Even in Miami Beach, there's an unfortunate incident of, are we going to secure an MOT? Who's going to be handling
As
who's
part
gonna be responsible for
as
the
part
MOT?
of the technical specifications, they are required to do MOT.
Okay.
And this also was the case in 2021 when we put down 31,000 cubic yards.
Yeah.
Carrera Construction was the company that did that construction, and it worked out very well. They had proper MOT.
Was it the same company, or?
No, Eastman Aggregates did the renourishment in 2017. They're actually a very good company. Moffitt Nickel, our ocean engineer that did the design, that is the basis for this proposal.
Right.
Has worked with Eastman a lot, and so they're happy that the one bid that we got was from Eastman, and so that gives me confidence. I was hoping that Ferrera Construction, that did it in 2021, would bid. For some reason they didn't. We reached out directly to them. I don't know why they didn't bid. But it was done very safely in
Right.
2021, and we plan on doing it the same way.
So we've defined the access points, and we know where they're gonna come in, and we know we're
Yeah,
gonna
the
clear.
staging
Because
area.
it's 25,000, so you said up to 25,000 cubic
Up
yards,
to
right?
25,000 cubic yards.
So the reason why I'm saying that is really, but for the benefit of the public more than anything else, that each of these trucks holds about 15 cubic yards, I think, 12 to 15.
Well,
whatever.
each road truck that comes onto the beach is 22 tons, so.
It's about- I
You do
was
the
just
conversion,
looking,
it's
yeah.
1.43 cubic yards per ton.
So simply doing the math, you're looking at close to 1,000 truckloads that are coming in and doing.
It's
sand,
actually gonna
so-
be 1,675.
That's a lot of
It's a lot of trucks. It's
Yeah.
1,625 trucks.
So let's just be, that's, it's just erring on the side of caution, just being extra careful. There's a lot of folks on the beach, a lot of people, and it's wonderful that we're doing this work.
Well, the number of trucks that are actually moving sand
Mhm.
up and down the beach is only 2. So you have
But a lot of
total
times.
Yeah, you have a total of, but
Right.
the trucks that are moving down the beach are much bigger than the road trucks.
Mhm.
So the road trucks, 1,625 loads, will drop off sand in a staging area, then a whatever loader
Right.
puts it into the big trucks that are the off-road trucks that move the sand down the beach. So you only really have 2 off-road trucks moving down the beach at any given time. One's going down while one's coming up.
Right.
And that makes it a very sort of discreet and more constrained sort of traffic situation
Yeah.
on the beach itself.
Do
And
we-
typically that truck that's moving down the beach also sort of in advance of that truck is a guy on an ATV making sure that people are like not in the way and stuff like that.
Okay, so one last question, and what are going to be the hours of operation, or what do we anticipate, when is it going to be the window of time?
Typically, it's around 8 o'clock in the morning to around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They can't start operating on the beach until the beach has been cleared by the county's turtle monitors. And so we coordinate with the county's turtle monitors to get them to survey our beach first thing in the morning. Usually they're off the beach by around 7:30 in the morning, but we're also trying to balance it out with, the impacts to Oceana.
Right.
So, we kind of come up with a compromise, and typically it's like around 8 o'clock in the morning, they'll start queuing up some trucks on the north beach access path, north of Oceana.
Right.
And then they'll drop the sand onto the beach, and then they'll head on like a temporary roadway that's put down on the beach. The road trucks will then travel to the south path of Oceana and then head off back to the mine to pick up another load.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, Mr. Vasquez, Mr. London.
Scope of work here, you say is 35,000 tons approximately of beach fill in the segment of beach and instead of root work, and they're calling for 23,000 tons. What's the difference between the
So
two?
originally when this bid went out, it went out for 23,450 tons, which is 17,000 cubic yards, because that's what Moffett and Nickel had quantified the loss was from Ian and Nicole. Then, so it went out to bid, it went out for that amount. Then on November 15th of this year, after this bid was received, we got that storm, and we estimated that we might have lost an additional 8,000 cubic yards, which then brought it to 25,000 cubic yards, which is actually 35,750 tons. And so that's
So my
the
question is, can we expect a change order or an additional order between this contract for the 23,000 tons and the 35,000 tons?
No, this is for a maximum of 35,700.
They give a breakdown here.
750 tons.
And it's broken down to 23,000 tons on page Exhibit B.
On Exhibit B, the Exhibit B that I'm looking at right now is an estimated quantity of 35,750 tons, which is 25,000 cubic yards. So this contract to Eastman is for a not to exceed 25,000 cubic yards, which is 35,750 tons.
Yep, okay. Maybe I'm-
We were
guess I'm
pretty
reading it wrong.
efficient, Ed. We caught it in time, and
No, I'm just looking at something here.
In other words, the contract
Page
did catch up
77.
with the upped it.
Excuse me?
The contract did catch up with.
Yes.
The additional
Yes,
8,000 cubic yards.
Right, we had reached out to the contractor after they'd submitted their original bid, which was for 23,000 some odd tons. And we quickly figured out that we would likely need upwards of 25,000 cubic yards. So we contacted the contractor, and then they adjusted their sheet, which is the Exhibit B, to
So we need
reflect
another
a maximum amount.
We need a new Exhibit B then, that's in, that is the same as their contract, right?
Is the Exhibit B that's in the book got
No,
for
the B on which we have
35,750 tons?
23,000 tons.
Okay, we have the
Good enough.
the most updated Exhibit B, yeah.
One question, so there was a reference here that we're replenishing on average between 4 to 6 years.
Correct.
And the last replenishment was 31,000 cubic.
Correct.
So we're basically outpacing historical data to show that we're
Well,
losing our
yeah,
beaches faster.
I mean, unfortunately.
More storms.
Unfortunately, in this case.
So this is a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real
Yeah.
thing. It's a
Beach
real-
renourishment is important. And we're
Yeah, and
losing
this
our
is why
beaches.
we're pushing so desperately to get into the federal coastal storm risk management program with the Army Corps, because then that way they're covering these beach renourishments for the next 50 years at a 65% federal cost share.
That's right.
That's why we're pushing that hard for it.
Great, thank you.
All right, call a question.
We had a short conversation earlier this evening about green technologies, breakwaters and the like. We'll remember to follow
Yeah,
up on that.
and at the
this
charrette
issue.
that we're gonna be having with the Corps on January 24th, 25th, 26th regarding the back bay study, and I'd recommend that as many people show up as possible and maybe plant the seed in the Corps' brain about the possibility of considering an offshore structure as part of their tentatively selected plan for how they're gonna do shoreline protection on the ocean side.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is huge.
Super quick.
Thanks, Frank.
I was here in 2017 when this company came through, and they did do an excellent job. And it was the first time that we came in that way with Oceana, I think, and it went really, really well. But also, I just wanted to say that it's nice to see you up here doing things like this, because I know the public often wonders why we need to hire outside people to help you with things like the big stormwater projects. And we always say it's because you have your regular village job to do. So here, this is your regular village job, which is a massive project, as Oscar just pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not really
There's a
looking
little
forward
plug
to it.
for Black and Veatch. You like that, Ed?
Manage the money any way you want.
Madam Clerk,
No problem.
run it.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe.
Yes?
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember London.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius.
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading.
Okay, 9E goes along with this. It's the ordinance to have the money put in there. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending ordinance number 2023-12, which adopted the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 by revising the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Moved. Second.
Been moved and second is properly before us from the dais. Any questions?
Mayor, I have a question.
One question, Mr. Vasquez?
Yeah, thank you. The question I had was related to change orders and management of the fund. Who's going to be managing construction management of this project? Who's going to be the inspectors? Who's keeping track of the project controls and the funding? Moffett and Nichols. Okay. Is there room here for change orders? How tight are we going to be with this? Because this budget's going to be associated to that, and we hate to come back and say we need another, God forbid, $10.
We were conservative with the 25,000 cubic yards.
Right.
That is kind of our max that we think.
You guys giving it a cushion just in case?
We did, and that's why there's a 5% contingency in here as well.
And I would also just add to that at the time that we estimated 25,000 cubic yards, we didn't have the results of the survey that Moffett and Nichols did on the loss from the November 15th storm. That's why it's a maximum of 25,000. They recently just came back to us just the other day to indicate that they believe that it was probably around 22,700. So if anything, there's a possibility that we don't put 25,000 $25,000, we put 22,000 or 23,000, in which case it'd be a little bit less.
Okay, yeah, good. All right, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved on first reading. The next item is a resolution, a capital project authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the purchase of upgrades to the village's security camera and license plate recognition LPR systems from ER Tech Systems, Inc., doing business as Broadcast Systems in an amount not to exceed $230,000, providing for authorization, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded. The items before us. Questions from the dais? Questions from the dais?
How many bids did we get?
Mr. Chief?
What was your question, Councilman?
How many bids did we get?
How many businesses?
Bids.
Bids? So we've had 3 bids 2 consecutive years. This year, we're asking to go with the same company because it's a continuing vendor so that the systems integrate as the same system. But the previous 2 phases, we received 3 bids.
So in other words, no other vendor can supply the same equipment?
Correct. Same equipment so that the interoperability remains the same.
Oh, I see. Can another vendor supply the same equipment?
Yeah, but the other 2 bids that we got with the same equipment in the past were higher.
Okay. That was in the past. But we didn't try this time.
Correct.
Why?
Because this vendor has proven to be capable and reliable. They're local, and when we've had issues, they've responded right away. It doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel with another vendor when the vendor is here in our local backyard. Just Friday, we had an issue with our LPR go down. They were here within half hour, 45 minutes, and replaced the LPR at no cost to us.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the vendor. They might be the best vendor. But when a vendor knows you don't taking bids, he tends to have higher prices, that's all.
Well, the prices are based off of.
Is this in the sheriff's contract?
Correct. Yep.
So it's been vetted by the association statewide.
It's off of the Florida Sheriff's contract, Councilmember London. So to explain it, they've been vetted, and their prices don't go above industry standard. The other members that come in, like the competitor for this company, their prices are significantly higher. Even though they're on the Florida state contract, they operate under a different system than what we've installed in the village.
And by the way, Ed, I really agree with you 100% philosophically. I think that our staff should be really disappointed and completely looking to change when we only have one bidder. I think that's something that ought to be, the manager ought to ingrain them into all the departments, that having one bidder is not a good thing, and we expect much better from them. Working harder, our procurement department needs to work harder to make sure that that doesn't happen. There are, as you know, since you worked out here a lot, there are reasons why it's difficult to get people out here, but and the staging issues and staging problems are terrible. But I agree with you. Nonetheless, phase 1, phase 2, we're with this company, so we're talking about phase 3, the last phase of this contract. It probably at this point would make no sense to change.
In my opinion, it wouldn't. Especially the 3rd phase is determining a lot of our access control points, and the system that we have now is nearly obsolete. It's in dire need of repair.
Okay,
Mayor, just one minute.
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
On the LPRs, the speed signs, where are you going to put those? Just for me.
We're going to put one at Crandon and Harbor by St. Agnes and West Mashta and Crandon.
Okay, a question. Can we put one on Ocean Lane? We got a lot of cars going fast there, man. I'm telling you. Kids walking their dogs, crossing. I almost get,
So initially we weren't going to do speed signs. We were going to do a mobile trailer. The speed sign became a more economical feature and gave us the LPR. The reason those locations were selected when I went out with our detectives in a certain group of officers is because we're trying to maximize the coverage points within the island when we are exposed to certain elements of criminal activity.
So if I could add, Chief, if you need a speed check on Ocean Lane Drive, we can do that. These are LPRs.
I've seen some kids going, pressing
But
really hard there.
You're asking two different things. So these are LPRs.
Okay,
So not that we don't have an issue for requiring LPRs down Ocean Lane Drive at this time.
Right.
Thank goodness. But if there is an issue with speeding, let us know and we can do coverage if necessary.
I mean, talk to the neighbors there. I'm sure they can, can't speak for the entire Ocean. Well, yes, I can. I'm just saying we should check with the neighbors. Okay. It's a sense of
It's probably Mike Davey.
All right.
I bet he would love that.
Golf cart.
Okay.
Well,
Madam Vice Mayor.
I have a question. You said that the system we have is nearly obsolete. I know I've been sitting here a while, but when I first came on council, we had no LPRs. So how fast does this technology turn over, and what was phase 1 and phase 2 if phase 3 were entering with the obsolete system?
So part of phase 3 is replacing access control in Village Hall and at the police department. That's the security areas within the department where certain people can go in and out of. That's been in existence, to my knowledge, since the building was built.
Okay.
So the public has an understanding. Phase 1 was getting the server, the technology components, and installing the fiber lines at Village Green Park. Phase 2 was installing the security cameras at Village Green Park, Beach Park, getting them live, replacing the LPRs at the entry and exit block and along Mashta Bridge, and now we're moving on to phase 3.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Let's do, to get them done, and it's important, 10D and 10E, and then we'll go back to, could be.
10D, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, providing for a ratification of the 2023-2026 collective bargaining agreement between the Village and the International Union of Police Associations, AFL-CIO, for the bargaining unit consisting of the Village's police lieutenants, authorizing the Village Manager to sign the collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the Village and take all actions necessary to implement the agreement and providing for an effective date.
Move. Second.
Thank you.
Moving second. Questions to the manager or the attorney? Seeing no questions, Madam Clerk, call the roll on this one.
Well, Councilmember Moss,
Stepped away.
Councilmember Sardinius,
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez,
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan,
Yes.
Councilmember London,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCormick.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, providing for ratification of the 2023-2026 collective bargaining agreement between the Village and the International Union of Police Associations, AFL-CIO, for the bargaining unit consisting of the Village's general employees, authorizing the Village Manager to sign the collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the Village and take all actions necessary to implement the agreement and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, the items before us. Mr. Manager, did you want to mention anything about these two? And, congrats on pushing these through.
No particular comments, but I do appreciate both unions coming to the table, working through, and I appreciate management working through this. Obviously, our employees are important to us, and we want to make sure that during these times, particularly these times of high inflation, that their interests are taken into consideration, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're good stewards of village resources. So I think over the last few months, if we've had these negotiations, I think we've met that fine balance to make sure that we have the right agreements in place.
So how many we have left?
We're still working through the police officers and the firefighters. Firefighters, though, also they're combined, the firefighters and the fire officers, into one single contract.
Okay. Any remaining issues on the inflation front?
As we know, South Florida's faced 2 years back-to-back on 9% inflation. I think we've seen across the rest of the country, while inflation has been going down to about maybe 3%, South Florida still experiencing around 6 to 6.5%. So I think that's something that we're facing with, and obviously our employees are facing the same issue.
Mr. Kaplan.
With that, a thought question occurs to me, and at the risk of creating an incendiary reaction to my right. The last time we met in the BPZ room, I think that the conversation on the open items revolved extensively around inflation, historical and current. And the thought question that we were kicking around, I recall, was whether we would have an easier, more assured path to resolution with all of the CBAs if we were to make a generous tender in response to COLA this year, a one-time shot. And we didn't come to a consensus at the time, but we did do some math, I think, and not only did we do some math on the fly by trying to articulate where the inflation rate was as relates to last year, but tried to understand what the budgetary effect would be in the village's contribution, or in the village's carry to maintain these contracts if we were to increase the COLA for this year. And I just broached the subject as to whether we still have 2 units open. I think that the discussion was very fertile, but we did not reach consensus, and we still have a negotiation ahead of us.
Mr. CFO, what's the pending number?
So, sorry, in that comment, what was the idea of the proposal that you?
We were batting around different numbers to plug in the COLA adjustment for this year, or for next year, I suppose.
Yeah, so in both these proposals, the first year COLA is larger. It's at 5.5%. If you want to go beyond that, depending on which union or village-wide, for each, I'd say 0.5% more, it's roughly about $85,000 village-wide.
For all of the bargaining units?
It's for all the employees, correct.
I mean, one thing is you can't do one without doing all.
Yeah, you have Me Too clauses in there.
And, you know, I think my recollection of the discussion about the percentage, which was essentially a blank, included tying it to the actual inflation rate, as opposed to an arbitrary number below the actual inflation rate.
Which we just stated was about 6%.
Benjamin may know better than I.
Yeah, so we just ran, as the manager mentioned, the last 2 years at 9. This year, we use from April through April. So we already have about 6 months of data, reports on a lag, and it's looking more or less it's going to be in that 6% range. So still higher than the cap that we've set at 4% for the next year.
The notion was not necessarily to chase inflation forever, but with some degree of optimism that, considering macroeconomic norms and trends, this is likely not going to be a continuing macroeconomic phenomenon, and to use a one-time kind of gesture to try to patch over the deprivations of the last number of years. That was the thinking.
I have a philosophical point on that one too. Are we sure that inflation is really something that we anticipate that it's going to go down? I don't want to get into that debate, but and why I'm saying that is that I would hate to create a precedent. You're the attorney. I'm not. I'm just saying, would we establish a precedent by trying? You know, sometimes the roadway to hell is paved with great intention. So, not that I don't support it, but I'm concerned that I just don't see inflation going anywhere except up. That's just my perception. And number two, would we be in the interest of doing something with good intentions, setting up a legal precedent, and later on we have to negotiate for it?
So I think
that's just my couple.
In this 3-year contract, it'd be a 1-year raising. We know in years 2 and 3 of the contract, we'd be capped at 4%. So regardless of where it is, that's the maximum. So if inflation comes back at 3%, the COLA is 3%. If it goes to 7%, we're capped at 4% for years 2 and 3. Obviously, in a next 3-year contract, whether that sets precedent, you'd be at the table again negotiating.
Okay, Mr. London?
Is this the place to discuss this right now?
I was just gonna ask that.
I mean, normally, we make an offer, they make an offer, we compromise. It's not a discussion, public discussion. At least, maybe I'm missing it, but as long as I've been negotiating union contracts, it's never been.
That's right.
But I understand where you're coming from,
No,
Frank.
that's exactly right, but we're about to possibly adopt 2.
Yeah, fine.
With the number that are still open.
So, then we can discuss that.
We can't be disparate, I think, with some worse than others.
Then why don't we just pick the highest salary from the highest job and give everybody the same money?
Can I get that?
Why not?
That's not.
Why should we discriminate?
That's not where we are.
Basically, you're saying.
No, I'm not.
Why police different fire?
I think Councilmember London said it right. I think that maybe we should reserve this for one of those opportunities where we don't have a public meeting and there's an exemption.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's, have we voted on the last one? Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. That's something you want to pursue.
I know.
Going back to 10B. A capital project authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the purchase of a CAT TH255C telehandler from Kelly Tractor Co. in an amount not to exceed $128,015, declaring the existing telehandler as surplus property, authorizing the sale or disposition of surplus property, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion on the item? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk?
No, you got somebody there making a presentation.
No. I don't hear any discussion. Okay, then.
How many hours do you have on this machine?
On the current machine, we are unable to determine the hours because the odometer is broken based on the last.
Should be an hour meter on there, not an odometer.
The hour meter is broken, and I have that in the report
When
printed
it
out.
broke, what was it?
What's that?
When it broke, how many hours did you have on it?
I don't have that information. I can
Everybody's gonna
ask
say
and get
that.
it back to you.
I've been here for a long time, and that thing is parked most of the time. Is it used once a month?
I believe it is used about once a month.
No. Okay. So the question is, does it make any sense at all to buy a new unit? Basically, we can rent units with drivers, with operators, when we need them. Why wouldn't, the reason why this piece is such bad shape, because it sits there, it's never used, it's out in the open, and it's not used, it's not maintained, and so as often we need it, we can rent one. Why do we want to go spend $100,000?
Okay, so in the item, it mentioned that you looked at the lease. So why, can you answer Mr. Lund's question?
Correct. So when we were looking at replacing the equipment because it's damaged and it's no longer safe to use at its maximum capacity, we looked at leasing, and unfortunately, leasing comes out to approximately $88,680 per year, and that was last year, on a month-to-month basis, and they would not give the option of, let's say, 6 months or a year lease. Yeah. So at any given time, they would be able to, by they, I mean the vendor, would be able to pull the leased equipment. This is in our opinion, this is a critical piece of machine that the village should have at its disposal to have independence whenever we have a storm event, because standard operating practice as of now is that when we have fallen trees on the street and for whatever reason, our landscape vendor or debris management, such as the previous storm, which wasn't declared an emergency, we have to clean that up. We have fire
cut the trees or whatever is impeding traffic, and we use the telehandler to move the pieces out of the road. Our main objective during those moments is to open the roads to emergency vehicles as quickly as possible. And I think it puts the village, we believe that it puts the village in a precarious situation if we are in a scenario where between the months of June to November, and we see that now it's extending, we even have storms in December, if at any given time we don't have that equipment available.
Well, there's at least a half dozen vendors who rent these. I'm not saying you should lease. What I'm saying is you should rent it when you need it. The most expensive vendor I checked was $600 and some a day. United Rentals was $500 a day. And I'm sure you can much better deal with the other people and and also determine how long it will take to get equipment. And if you need more than one piece of equipment when you're renting, you can get it when you need it. My question is, why do we want to go spend money on a piece of equipment we're rarely going to use? It's going to sit there. I mean, it's like a lot of other things we do. It's nice to have. We have a lot of money, but does it really make economic sense? Most contractors don't own equipment. They get equipment on a daily basis when they need it. Why should it be any different?
Well, in terms of the contractor, if they were to bid on a project, they would have to factor in the cost of the equipment as it's being leased to them at the moment, and then they would bring that cost to you at a markup. So that is an option that the council has. We don't believe that is the most financially viable solution, and as I mentioned before, I believe that we should have it available for the majority of the year. At this point, at least half of the year, it should be readily available. And we do use it fairly often.
You even just said before, maybe we use it once a month. Previously, I don't think you used it once a month when it was working.
How many times have we used it?
It's still working. We just cannot use it at full capacity, and it is a safety hazard. The report mentions that the arm could snap because
I'm not saying you should
corroding.
keep it. I'm not saying it's a safety hazard. I'm saying going forward, I think it makes much more sense to get it when we need it, period.
But is it a once a month, or is it once every 2 months, or is it?
So we also use it. We use it for our special events, and where it comes in handy, handy when it's required is we get a lot of large shipments that need to be unloaded off the truck. We get a call sometimes the day before of the day of that shipment's coming, and we use the Versa handler to lift that off, put it down. When we get picnic tables, benches, trash cans, all those come on large pallets. We have short notice. We need to take them off, so we just run over there, grab the Versa handler. I have 2 staff members who are trained on how to operate it, and they make that happen. As long we're doing these capital projects, we're going to be getting large deliveries that we need to quickly remove off the trailers that they come on.
I mean, what about a forklift instead of a boom lift?
I think what he was alluding to is it does a forklift and it does a bunch of other things too. So that's why it's a Versa handler. It's versatile and gives us a wide range of.
But does it do something that a forklift can't do that you need done?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's telescoping.
We have a bucket in front of it that we use to carry large, whether it be debris from a storm or whatnot. Also, the bucket has a grapple hook, and no other equipment has that available. We looked at also Bobcats, and they don't have that, and we use that often because sometimes you do have to pull, and a bucket is not sufficient. And as Todd mentioned, it has the telescopic handle arm. This is something that a forklift wouldn't be able to do for us.
It seems to me, memory, after a rationale might be after Hurricane Irma, we couldn't rent equipment, and there was a lot of debris that had to be pulled out, and there just wasn't a market that we could tap for what we needed.
And that is by far my biggest concern, is not having it when we need it, because right now they may be $600 a day, but when every other municipality and maybe even private vendors are going after that same equipment, it's not a sure thing that you're going to get it, even if you try to outbid them.
My question is, if we buy this, how are we going to properly keep it maintained and protected, instead of just, I think right now it's pretty much sitting out and exposed. Is there a better way that we can protect this equipment so it lasts longer and doesn't have issues?
Yeah, so the first thing, as far as protecting it, we would want to store it. We would want to store it in the garage so that it doesn't have the issues that is currently facing out in the atmosphere. And second, we are purchasing with it a 60-month, 2,500-hour warranty that should cover any defects that it has. Your question is related to maintenance. And also, we are purchasing preventive maintenance package, also 60 months, 2,500, that we're paying extra for to make sure that the upkeep is kept.
So somebody comes out and looks at it and goes through all the stuff.
Yeah, they'll be checking the oils, the pressures, the fluids. They'll be doing checks on metal shavings or coolant in the oil to make sure that we don't have a warranty issue with, let's say, the motor or the refrigerant components. So
I'm good with this, but, and it seems to be a reasonable argument, but I would hope the next time, because he seemed to say, 1 month, and then he came in and he started slid. I'm just saying, I'm not.
Yeah, because
when we get
my response was going to be 1 month or sometimes twice a month.
Remember, we're buying capital equipment that's being used. We need to know.
Yeah.
Right, the usage of it. So just for the next meeting or next time we come up with something like this, let's just have those.
Yeah.
Those important things that form part of our decision. So.
Correct. So my response was going to be, it depends. One time it could be a month, other times it could be 3 if he has more events. Because, and then when we have,
just give us a sense.
An average?
Jump in. Yeah, not now. I don't. Okay. The decision's made. We're gonna.
But wait. To answer Mr. London's point. Okay, so what is the cost to rent it on a once a month basis? Is there a number?
Once a month, one time, 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a price for that.
$600 and some dollars from.
Ed got the price.
What's the green stuff? United Rental. It's $500. There's other stuff from smaller guys that are cheaper, but they're the 2 big guys.
And Ed, does that include delivery and pickup? Okay.
Can I suggest something, Mr. Manager? Can we bring this back next month? And if you answer those questions, I think that, the council would feel a little bit more comfortable with making the purchase, but if
daily
not.
rental?
Yes, we can do that, Mr. Mayor, and we'll also, we'll identify how many times we use it a month. We'll also come back with what that cost would be if we were to rent it by day.
Could I also suggest that maybe in addition to just getting prices, if you maybe take the temperature of some of these people who own the equipment that rent it on a daily basis, if they would be willing to enter into some type of agreement with us, Ed, cover your ears, even if we pay a little bit more per day to guarantee that when a storm event happens, we get a piece of equipment. Because I understand that the concern is there's a bit of it that's like insurance, that you want to be able to get your hands on the equipment when you need it and everyone else needs it. But maybe if we can have a contract and negotiate ahead of time where they get to use it and rent it all the other days that we don't need it, but they make a little bit more from the Village of Key Biscayne, but we still save money. So if we could get the price for the daily rental, if anyone is interested in entering an agreement with us, and how often we use it, so we can analyze what's the smarter way.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, to be more proactive, if a storm is coming, I would hope that we would be renting it before the storm, so it's already ready to go, not waiting till afterwards and trying to figure it all out, and everybody's looking for one. We already have one on there rented, ready to go, and if we don't need to use it, we send it back. It's not a big deal.
Which then should go into the matrix of how many days you need it. Because that's days that it's sitting and waiting, as opposed to days that we actually used it.
Yeah.
In the past.
And storms are reimbursable.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could add to that. So there's really three ways we use this. It's regular, everyday business. There's when a storm comes, but it might not be a hurricane, like we saw on November 15th, where it didn't raise to a hurricane. And then obviously the big storm. We have a contract with a debris management company for hurricane large storms that's set up under a FEMA agreement. And I don't think any of us want to pay for that unless we really need to, because that's about 4 or 5 times going rate. So nobody's going to do an agreement with us during a hurricane, except they're going to charge the same thing that Ashbrook charges, which is about 4 or 5 times as much. So it's those in-between storms, those things that we need to have the flexibility for. You know, we had 24 trees down on the 15th, plus or minus, so obviously it was used quite a bit.
20.
We'll go back, we'll get more information, come back on all the different ways that we can either rent, lease, or purchase, and then we can talk about how many times we use it per day, per month, and then also how many times that we use those intermediate times, those mini storm, I don't want to call them mini storms, smaller storms where it doesn't raise to a hurricane level.
Okay, motion to defer the item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, motion carries. The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, selecting UG2 LLC for facilities management and maintenance services in an amount not to exceed $313,212.35 annually, providing for authorization, providing for an effective date.
Second.
The item is moved in.
Before you, go ahead.
Okay.
You gotta-
Do we have any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ed.
For as long as I've been on council and before, you hear the constant complaint about maintenance, about public works, about nothing's getting done, how things are deteriorating, how things are rusting, how things are potholes. Perfect example is up until, I haven't checked it today, at Westwood and Fernwood. There's a hole in the street. People just keep going there, breaking their axle. And you know what? They finally, yesterday, the day before, they put a cone in the street. This has been going on for months. But anyway, going back, the major excuse, not you, because you weren't here, major excuse we got, well, we really don't know what we have as far as assets. So we were going to have a program. We're going to know all the assets we have. You guys remember this some of the times. And we're going to have a record. And this record, and we're going to go ahead and we'll make sure that maintained, inspected, et cetera, on a regular basis. So that's what we all agreed to, and that was going to be the cure-all. Well, obviously, Public Works Department either did it, did not do it, or whatever happened, it didn't work. So now you're considering, well, since the Public Works Department is not doing their job, we'll go hire somebody else for another $300,000 to help Public Works do their job. This is a Public Works job. This is something we should have everything cataloged, every asset. There should be a schedule of maintenance and inspection, and we should not have to go hire. I mean, we just have more overhead for no reason, and more consultants. I wish Laredo was here. So, anyway, I think it's a total waste of money if we did our job.
What is this scope?
The primary scope of this contract is essentially to be able to assess, compile, identify all of our assets facility-wise into a system, a computerized system that will allow us to then proactively maintain our assets as opposed to what we're experiencing now, which is reactive. That takes up most of our time. It has to be done reactively, otherwise, mainly the biggest issue that we have is with AC units. So as they break, we have to reactively repair them. This program would be able to give us an idea of all the assets that we have, categorize them, put them in the program that we're using for our right-of-way, which is CityWorks, and then allow us to program the maintenance, the replacement, be able to put them in the budget so that we can proactively do it. And instead of when we work reactively, we essentially waste money.
I'm not merely bleeding heart in this, but why something feels odd to me about the person who spoke earlier, the plumbing contractor. Why would this displace a plumbing contractor who's local, who's doing a good job?
It wouldn't.
It would not. So essentially, when the project was first put out to bid, that was the intent, that this company was going to do all the repairs and manage it with a Rolodex of sub-consultants or contractors that they have. but the village went back and reassessed after the bids were received, and we determined that the vendors that currently provide services to the village are amazing. They're great. They're the best, so we're gonna keep them. And what we decided to do was to reduce the scope to the management aspect of it, what I just mentioned, and then we would continue to use the vendors that we use now through that company. So that company is the one that goes, identifies the issues. They perform minor repairs, so that is part of their task. But when it comes to plumbing, electrical, several names were mentioned during the public forum, we would still prefer to use those even if we have this company, because this company, the services are greater than that.
Well, they're different than that.
They are. And also we have to keep in mind that currently the village does not have a maintenance contract, a facility repairs contract. And this is something that we feel like we must have, because at the moment it's a precarious situation.
The real life effect of maintenance, as Ed just observed, is really conspicuous around the village. Deteriorated conditions frequently occurring. This is different than
it is
than the day-to-day in the street nonsense fixing things.
It is different. Yeah.
We need to attend to that as well.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Brett.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. This has been one of the most frustrating parts of being up here over the last 7 years, is trying to get us to, you know, really look at what we have and take care of what we have. And we've done a not so good job at doing that. And we have to get away from the let's build something new, and in 10 years it's deteriorated, we'll just tear the whole thing down and redo it again. I mean, these buildings should be lasting 25, 35, 40 years, maybe even more if we take care of them. So I am happy that we are moving down this road to find the solution. What is a bit frustrating is that I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago that we were told that we needed these certain people in place in order to, you know, take care of that, right? Yep. So that's what my understanding was. Now, it may have been, you know, that was the tribe, but then you realize maybe it's too large, we can't do it. I don't know what it is, right? But that being said, if we're proving something today, I want to make sure, again, we don't go 3 years again, find out that didn't work, we've been paying somebody, and it comes back to, oh, now we need to hire this company to do this, right? So we don't want to go down that road. We're really want the solution. I agree 100% that we need to keep things local as much as possible here. I'm not interested in hiring us trying to find these companies all over the place when we have very well qualified people here. So I'm glad to hear that we're keeping those people because they do a good job. I think what we have done a poor job of, and I want to make sure that if we do pass this contract, that this is in place, which is to me one of the most important pieces, is inspections. Somebody on a regular basis needs to go and look at certain buildings. Some can be a regular basis, could be once every 6 months. Others can be daily. I think I spoke to the manager today. I said, is this company we're hiring, are they going to be out there inspecting?
Yeah.
And if they are they going to the bathrooms on the Village Green or down at the bathrooms down at the beach park and say, oh, the faucet's loose, we need to fix it? Is it to that degree? Because that's the degree that we do need to take care of stuff, right?
That is part of it, of the contract.
All right, excellent. So I think that's the most important. Now, is there anybody in-house that's going to also inspect, or are we putting everything to that company?
No. So the superintendent will fulfill his job, which is to oversee what that company is going to be doing, as opposed to currently his job is being everywhere all the time. It's an impossible task for him to do. He cannot inspect because we are reactive. Once we have this service, then they will go to him, and he would then be the one to ascertain what needs to get done in what way, using his expertise, which he has ample.
And then the next question I have, this amount that we have sitting in front of us, $313,000, how much of that is a one-time fee to set up the system, and then how much is the recurring fee to do the inspections and things like that?
That is the annual fee for the contract.
So we're
There
gonna,
is,
next
they will be
year,
working, what's that?
I'm sorry, so next year, they're not going to be putting the whole stuff together. They're already gonna have it together. They're gonna charge the same amount the next year?
Correct, they're gonna be providing the same services continuously. They also provide the maintenance component that I mentioned we don't have, because right now, we don't have a facility maintenance contract whatsoever. It was going to be included in our janitorial services, but it was separated, and it was decided that they were going to be bid separately. Otherwise, that cost would then be added to the janitorial services, one way or the other. We don't have a maintenance contract.
So I guess what my question is that there's a heavy lift that this company has to do right at the start, right? They have to put the whole system together, get all the assets and put that together, which seems like a lot of work.
Yes.
So why would the next year be the exact same price as the first year? Wouldn't it drop dramatically because they're now just doing the service end of it. They're not putting together all the data, the system, and everything that we're going to need to do.
The vendors.
Yeah, can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So what we typically
Come
do
to
is-
the microphone so
I'm sorry.
everyone at home
Hi, my
can
name
hear.
is Ken Gamolk. I'm Vice President with UG2. So what we typically do is take those upfront costs and we spread it out over the life of the contract to make it more feasibly or economically feasible.
Okay,
So
so
you're
it's
right,
built
we're gonna
in
come in, we're gonna come in
yearly.
with a group, we're gonna gather all the data, and that's an upfront cost. We take that cost and we spread it out over the life of the
What's the life of the contract in here, the term?
311.
It's a 3-1.
311? Okay. And then you also agree that we can use the local
Oh, absolutely.
companies here
Yeah,
to do all of that?
So it's about
Never off the
1.5
table.
million altogether.
I'm sorry?
It's about 1.5 million altogether when it's all
Over
said
the
and
life
done.
of the, that's correct.
Yeah, I think we should have said that here, not 313 annually. Again, going back to clarity, going back to folks reading the memo, you know, I just heard, thanks to his questions, that we're dealing with a yearly contract of 313. I got your logic, but there's no time to process it. Because you threw 313 at us, and all of a sudden, we're thinking 313, and it's not. It's 1.5.
That is the two options are.
Well, let's not write memos like that, please, because I don't see 1.5 here, and that's what I like to see. I see 3, right here, see 313. That's not good. You know,
Well,
we gotta be clear.
It strikes me that there's a risk here for you if it's 311 and you're spreading this initial cost over the whole life. Either we're overpaying in the one, or if we don't renew, you're losing money.
Well, typically, we would just spread that over the 5 years.
The 3 or the 5?
5, because we take the risk for years 4 and 5.
But your initial effort, when you think about it, your initial effort has to do with inspection and recording and assimilating data, right? Because you're creating an asset
We've got
management
to gather
system.
data, put it into the CMMS system.
So it is,
Develop the work
it's
plans.
a heavy lift, but I'm not sure if it's the same type of lift as them sending inspectors and having to deal with, you know, what's the okay, so let me ask you a question now. It begs another, I'm sorry, they're into it.
No,
Can we do something?
But I did have an important question. I'm so
Can
sorry.
we do something? Why don't you give us a very short presentation about what your services are so that we're all on the same
Sure.
page?
I can come with this in case, Jeff. So Jeff Jensen's with UG2. He's a support engineer for UG2, so he would support this business. So typically, the sandbox that we play in is facilities maintenance. Okay, so what we do is design the program to insert all the equipment, and you have millions of dollars worth of equipment here at the Village of Key Biscayne that unfortunately was not really maintained over the lifespan. To your point, you go out and buy a piece of equipment and you just operate it till failure. What our program will do is we will develop and work with the manufacturers, we'll put the work plans into the system, and that system will tell us when the filter should be changed, when it should be oiled, how the drain, when the drain plans should be drained, and then our that CMS system will tell us exactly when to do it, what to do it, and how to do it, and then we'll input the data too when we go out and perform those preventive maintenance work orders. And it's just like a car, right? You don't want to buy a new car and never change the oil. You want to maintain that car and provide those preventive maintenance just in time, and that'll reduce the breakage in the future. Am I missing anything, Jeff?
No. So our first visit here was November of last year. I've been here now probably 5 times, 5 separate visits, and my assessment of mechanical equipment, now, mainly rooftop equipment, I'm not talking about smaller stuff, but things that are exposed to the elements, it seems to me, and I've been doing this for 27 years, that what the plan that you currently have in place has been mainly reactive. Our goal is to come in and do a deeper assessment. I've assessed everything already that I've seen, that I've been shown, but to do a deep assessment on everything, get that all input into your CityWorks, into your CMMS system, and then from there we will build preventive maintenance schedules for every piece of equipment. So you were exactly right. Some may be daily inspections, some may be weekly, some may be monthly, semi-annual, and annual, but they will all be in the CMMS system, and that will all get eyes put on it on those dates, so that we are now working on we're gearing towards being proactive. We see a piece of equipment and we assess it, and it's running, it's a motor, and it's, put your hand on it and it's hot. We amp it out, it's running high amperage. We know that motor is getting ready to fail. So that way we can go back to Steve and his team, and we can, they can budget and plan for that. Okay, this is going to fail. This is a $2,000 motor. We might want to have one on the shelf, so that we don't have any downtime, especially for the fire department. That was the one thing that really struck with me in our first visit, that they've had several problems. They spend the night and they sleep when they're on call, and they've had several nights where there was no AC. Our plan is to prevent that from happening in the future, and that can all be done with, a good preventive maintenance program, documentation, analytical data, and inspections.
So my last question was that the management system that we have, is that ours?
It is yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so if for any reason we're not happy with your service, we don't lose any of that data. You can find somebody else or whatever, or do it in-house if we want.
It's all yours.
And then, is it possible to get separated the cost to, populate that system versus what we'll be paying? Because if we get into another contract and continue, it should just continue as without that built-in 5 years of populating all the data. So I don't know. I would feel more comfortable knowing the different numbers before approving it. That's just me, just so it's very transparent of what we're approving. And maybe we decide to pay up front the data collection and then just pay the service from then on. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, thank you. I guess another question I have is, we're creating an asset management system, but one company's creating it. That later on, I would assume, I won't assume, but that this asset management system, Mr. Manager, would be used for other capital components, right? We would come back and populate it, but they're managing it. How does it work? We have a company that's starting on specific facilities, but say now we're going to install the stormwater system by K. That's a totally different animal right there. How we intend to populate that data? And
so we use, and I'll let Carol go into the detail on this, but we use CityWorks. We own CityWorks.
Okay, so
we have the
module,
facilities module in CityWorks. You can also have other modules in CityWorks.
Great stuff. Okay.
So it's ours. It's our database.
So then we
would
in turn use the same. We would manage it after they're done, right? Or would they continue managing it?
I believe there's separate modules for different types of assets.
CityWorks is the one that's going to manage all the assets. Yeah. So they're going to populate all the facility assets into CityWorks.
Right. CityWorks is the umbrella asset management program, and then you've got these other platforms, or
we have everything, different modules, and we can categorize it whichever way we want. We can put it in whatever buckets we want. So we are already using it for right-of-ways. We populate any issue that we see, all the inspections that we are performing currently for catch basins inspections. So we already do that for right-of-way work. What we don't have is the data and the know-how that they provide in order to be able to better program any future repair, maintenance, or even replacement of assets within the facilities. We don't have that.
Right, but
And we
there's
don't
no
have the
point of
knowledge to do it
reference.
as
So
well.
I guess, well, I'm a little disappointed about the fact that we put in 313,000 as the title price on this memo. And I think on that term, I myself am going to vote against it. I think that we should really do a better job because the public reads this, we read this, and we cannot have that.
Councilmember, I guess maybe I misunderstand what you're saying. 'Cause
I'm seeing here, I'm seeing 313,000 annually, but and it's a 3-term year contract. There is no, we don't know how much we're gonna pay for this whole thing. This contract is for 3 years. So 3 times 3 is 9. It's close to $1 million.
939.
We're only saying 313. And I go to this table here, and maybe I missed it. Please point out to me, where does it say $900,000? On top of that, it's a 2-year renewal. So, you know, I don't think we're buying the farm, but I think at the end of the day, I'm concerned about the structure of these memos. I want to see clarity on this stuff. We're here taking your word on it and what you're showing us. So I just would hope that I'm going to vote against it because I just think that it's a matter of just principle. I would love to see next memos doing that.
But I guess, Councilmember, I'm trying to understand it. It says $313 annually for 3 years. So
Yeah,
I guess how would you?
We should not be doing the math here. We should be explaining exactly how much is this going to cost us. What is the intent? I also have another question too. I mean, as to the lift, as you were saying originally, you're going to have a couple of guys here inspecting the system. You're going to take all the inventory. You're going to give it to somebody that's going to input the data, right? For how long? I mean, the first year you're just going to be recording data, but is it going to be an entire year? Or you're just going to have a couple of guys here reviewing our facilities, which are limited in themselves. They do require work, but we're not a large city. So then for the most part, you're going to have an assistant, a clerk, somebody just entering the data that they're providing.
No, I want to reiterate that.
How does that become a magic tool?
I want to reiterate that this is our maintenance and repair contractor because we do not have one on staff. We have a somewhat of a agreement with CBM that they do provide what they're providing under this contract, but we don't have a contract with them. So at any time, and this is not a service that CBM wants to provide. They're doing it right now as a favor to the village. Once that favor is gone, we don't have a repair and maintenance on a daily basis. There's not going to be anyone sitting on a computer typing at all. So maybe at the end of the day, they might.
We have repairs for 3 years to be done.
We have repairs. We have daily repairs. Multiple.
3 years.
Remember, it's inspection, preventive maintenance, and repairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the problem is we've been doing repairs for 23 years. We haven't been doing the inspection and the PM as well as we should.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. London and then Ms. McCormick.
Your 3 predecessors were all going to gather this data. And you're trying to tell me that nobody gathered any data? You have no idea of the assets we own?
We know the assets that we own.
Yeah.
What we don't know is the information the knowledge that they have on how to.
No. Do we know that there's a 5-ton air conditioner here? There's a 100-gallon heater there?
Yes, we do.
So we do have all the information.
No, we don't.
Okay.
We know the assets we have. We don't know how to maintain them.
Excuse me. Do we know what we own?
Yes.
Not how to maintain it.
We do.
Do we know what we own?
We do.
So at this point in time, your predecessors have gathered the information. They know what we have. So now it's a question of knowing how to maintain it, right?
Correct.
So
how to program the maintenance.
If we have a Carrier air conditioner and some other brand of something else, so what we would have to do probably, if we didn't have these people, is contact them to find out how to maintain it, right?
We are currently doing that.
Then we would know how to maintain it. And then we'd enter into the system.
One quick aside, Cairo. How many assets do we have?
Assets and in which type of assets?
Yeah, the ones that Ed is just talking about.
Facilities and maintenance here.
They're gonna
1,000, 100.
Thousands of assets, and it depends based on their experience.
No way.
And it depends on their experience to what level they want to quantify based on what they have encompassed in other facilities. So it could go down to the faucet, or it could go as big as just the unit by itself, which it won't.
Okay, well,
it has to go into the compressor, into the condenser coils. It has to go into that level of detail. Otherwise, I mean, we're just gonna replace a whole unit. It's a lot more expensive than $300,000.
But if you go to a Carrier 10-ton unit, 5-ton unit, compressor they will tell you how to maintain the thing, correct?
They give you
They have
a maintenance cycle for a new unit, but they will not tell you what you have to do for a unit that has been installed in the past 20 years. And otherwise, we can just buy all of them in the next fiscal year, and we can't do that. So we have to make sure that we program them accordingly, and they have that knowledge.
So you're trying to tell me that they haven't kept records of the things they sold on how to maintain them 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
And they wouldn't have that, no.
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would. When they do these things, they print them, they don't throw them all away.
Right.
So, and you have the computer system.
Right.
And all this stuff was supposed to be done. Well, fine, you have all the assets. It sounds to me you got $1.5 million for nothing. Maybe you need a clerk. You hired a superintendent, you hired a foreman. Everybody was supposed to do all these things. And so far, it seems like you got a problem. The other thing you might want to consider, which I have in the past, is you got a roofing contractor, a good roofing, and you make a contract with a roofing contractor. You pay him so much a year, and when the roof leaks, he fixes it. When it needs to be replaced, he replaces it. Your air conditioning contractors, they'll give you a contract for maintenance and inspection on a monthly basis. Call them when you need them, and the equipment's included. You make the same thing with your elevator contractor. So all these major, no, you're not going to make it with a faucet and washers and things like that. But all this equipment can be taken care of, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. You get reliable people to do it. You then know what the cost will be on an annual basis. You know that whether it breaks or doesn't break, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars for that air conditioning system, for that roof, etc.
That seems like what you're describing is what they can provide.
What?
What you're describing is what they would be providing for that contract.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to guarantee your roof and come repair it.
No, not guarantee it.
They're going to tell you to hire somebody to do it. Why do you need them to tell them? Aren't you competent to do that?
We do have an AC contractor vendor that we use, but they don't do what this company.
Well, then hire another contractor that will.
You could.
Ed, let me keep going. Allison, and then Tomas.
Sorry for getting aggravated. I'll go eat pizza.
So, sorry. I want to start by thanking you guys for coming and for putting this time in, and to say that I still have some questions that have kind of come to mind out of this discussion, and I'm not feeling that this is the night of this item, and I wonder if perhaps it doesn't make sense to maybe revisit the memo and conversations with individual council members and bring it back when we all have a better understanding. Because I do have real questions about even just right down to staffing and day-to-day tasks. Like it was a lot to get us to approve the superintendent position. And I feel like we're always adding staff, and if I fully understand the need, then I'm okay with it. But I'm not quite there based on this. So that would be my suggestion.
Fair enough.
Mr. Moss?
No, I was going right there with you as well, that this has to be deferred, and I'll make the motion to defer it, but I'd like to say something maybe before we go there. But, this was just brought to us whenever we got this, Wednesday or Thursday. I had no idea this was maybe the direction that the manager was taking us into until this time, so it's very fresh of how this is going to work. I think something that we should ask for is how our public works department works now and how you want it to work and how this plugs into it. Okay. Because depending on whether we decide we want to do this or not, you need to show us that this is how it works now and this is how it's going to work, and it's going to take you to this level, and this is why it's worth paying that. Because it's really, if it's not, then, because we may decide, why don't you just hire 3 people and we do it that way, and we have this company still there, but maybe they don't do all of this, they're only here to do one of these tasks. That might be something we might want to consider. I don't know, and I'm sure you guys have done the analytics of this, but I think you have to show us a little bit more about how your department is working over this so that we can make a much more intelligent decision on this. I'll make a motion.
Let me. We all have struggled with the problem of maintenance. I mean, if we have an Achilles heel, it's the maintenance issue. So I agree with everyone, what everyone has said. But let's focus on the big picture. And the big picture is we got to get a hold of our maintenance so that we don't have the constant complaints that I get, that you get, that staff gets about, well, you know, you bought this asset and now it's not working. Yeah, we got to get away from that. So, and I agree with everyone here. You know, maybe this is a solution. Maybe we need to think it a little bit more through. But you know, the emphasis about maintenance, man, that's got to be something we solve. You know, and if this is not the right solution, then let's go to the other one. But boy, this maintenance issue. I mean, this thing eats me up day and night all the time because I get complaints. Hey, you know, this in this area or that area. So then this only tackles a little bit. So, you know, get ready to spend some money because maintenance it's got to be done at several different levels. Okay. So it's not just about, you know, our facilities. We got to do it on our streets. We got to do it in our playgrounds. We got to do it, et cetera, et cetera. So with that,
I move to defer this until January's meeting.
Mayor, just one quick thing, and I agree 100% with what you're saying, and I totally agree that maintenance is a critical issue.
Yep.
Let me just encourage, maybe use that as a platform to kind of suggest that staff comes back with an idea of how we're going to do it all. Just kind of give us an understanding before we move forward.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking. We can move quickly with it, but just, you know, just like we're doing with the stormwater.
Motion to defer takes precedence.
I need a second on the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Second to defer.
I'd ask for a motion to defer, no time certain.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine.
Is that agreeable
Yeah.
with the? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries.
So we don't need to do a motion on accepting this contract at this point?
We just
Defer, and that's it, but
deferred
no,
the
just that's
item.
great, fine, that's fine.
Let's talk briefly about the red flag situation. Todd, or who do you want, Mr. Manager? Roland. So I think I may have asked in the past. Our technology is to the point where people sign up and they get something that says, you know, this is a warning about the beach situation. Do we have that in place or not?
Sure. So all the monitoring that Miami Waterkeeper does on a weekly basis is accessible through the Swim Guide app that they have.
Can you get closer to the microphone?
All the monitoring that Miami Waterkeeper does on a weekly basis of bacteria levels at the 4 locations, 2 Bayside and 2 Oceanside, are available through the Swim Guide app already.
Okay.
And also the monitoring that is done of bacteria levels by the FDOH at Crandon, 1 location on Key Biscayne Beach, and Cape Florida is also available through the FDOH.
Are there problems, communities throughout the country with red flag, or is this an issue?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not an expert on, you know, what communities do in terms of beach warnings. I mean, it's something that we may choose to take upon ourselves in beyond what FDOH does, but then, I don't know, it may be a legal thing that needs to be taken consideration in terms of what liability that we may be taking on by putting out a warning. I don't know what the legal implications are of putting out a red flag and what that tells people or what it doesn't tell people, and what happens if they take it upon themselves to go swim anyway. I mean, I'm not sure what the legal ramifications are.
Okay. Allison?
So this isn't the first time that we've talked about this, and I know we talked about having something on the website that helped direct people to the Swim Guide app and the Department of Health. And I know that regular residents, and by regular I mean year-round residents who use the beach on a regular basis, still struggle with access to the information because it's two different entities testing, and their results are posted in two different places, and they test in different spots at different days of the week. And I don't think we'll come up with an answer here tonight, and I suspect, sorry Ed, it's gonna cost money, but I would love if we could maybe take a little time and figure out a system that has better communication for our residents, because the story of I never find out until after I went swimming, you hear far too often. And I think we need to figure out a way to monitor it maybe more often and certainly communicate it more directly.
Well, one thing that we could do is, in addition to the information, to the data being put out on the Swim Guide app, we could
do it on the bins.
At the time that we have the data from Miami Waterkeeper, just put it out through the Village Connect. I mean, that's an alternative also.
Like you get the traffic advisory, you could do it there too.
I think the difference though in some communities I've been to that have flags, and sometimes the flags are, related to man of war or riptides or different things. They often have beach staff like lifeguards who are able to monitor it and that are there
every
daily
day, all the
and
time.
they're able to implement a system like that. So I don't know if that system really could work for us, because it would probably mean a full-time position, but some way to figure out how to synthesize the information, at least that we do have,
and we only have people. We, as the village, only have 4 accesses to the beach: Beach Park, Sands, and also the 2 on Oceana. So a lot of this is people are just walking out of their condo. So it really is about communication as much about as a warning sign. So we can come back, and obviously we can continue this conversation, but we can come back with a recommendation of whether we can use systems in place or whether we might need to do an additional system. But let us kind of come through a process, and we can make a recommendation in January.
And again, what's worked in other communities or not worked, so that we know that. Mr. Moss?
No, I was just going to say, I feel like the flag is a very simple and very effective solution. I mean, I don't go to the beach and go, oh, wait, let me check. I just go to the beach. And if there's something on the beach that says no swim, I'm like, oh, I'm not going in. It doesn't seem like this is happening so often where you need a full-time person working. I mean, this is something maybe even the Public Works Department, one of the guys there can, you tell them, hey, we need to put that out there, and they go out and hang 4 flags down there on our nice little new ATVs that we bought, and they get to use them.
But the question might be if you could solve it with technology.
No, but I think you can, because at some point people don't when you go to the beach, you're not always looking at it. It seems like such an easy system to do it without the technology. And sometimes the technology, by the way, is a little confusing, because I think the last one went out, it said that this one said yes, but this one said no. And it almost looked like this one said there was, but now they said that it's gone. But it was not that this one said that it left. It was just it didn't show up on their system yet. So people might read that wrong and then say, oh, it was there, but now it's good to go in. But it's just that, no, one didn't pick it up yet.
I'll be curious to see what the manager comes back with, because I just trying to think it through. The idea of, it's easy to put out a flag. It's not that easy to put out a flag, because that means you need to be sure of what you're communicating every single day that you're putting that flag. And if you're only putting it on some days and not other days, that inconsistency is maybe giving people a false sense of security on days that maybe we didn't pay someone to put a flag, or we didn't test, so we didn't put a flag. Like, if we're going to do it, we need to make sure that what we're communicating is accurate and safe and consistent and sustainable.
I would also add that it's not just a matter of putting out a flag at, 2 paths at Oceana, a path at Sands, and a path at the Beach Club in, say, Casa del Mar. It's everything in between. And then there's also the reality that is you're constrained by the data that you collect. So you collect data once a week. What about in between then?
Well, we can only
do
what we know.
So basically you can put out a flag on the one day that you get a hit, and then the question becomes, okay, so if you get a hit, they'll sample again the next day, and then theoretically, if it comes out under, then they can take the flag down. If it comes out over, then they will sample again, you keep the flag out. But then all the in-between days, people would have no idea as to theoretically what the water quality is. If it's good on the day that they sampled and it's bad the next day, there's no way for you to know that. And so there's no way for the public to be informed that the next day there might be an exceedance. So
but it's the same issue that we have with the technology. I mean, this is
yeah. My point being, it's not as simple as you might believe it to be, or the public might believe it to be, that that we should just automatically be warning people
So let me
whenever there
understand,
might be a
Rowan,
threat.
if I would. So let's say, and I'm just going to pick random dates because I don't know the exact dates. So say the water keeper tests every Monday, and they do that every Monday. If they were clean on Monday, and then we get
something on Tuesday,
we won't know until next Monday.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Which is no
Except
different
the
than
county
this.
sends alerts.
Yeah.
They do, but again, the county will sample once a week on whatever schedule they sample. If there's something that happens at the treatment plant, then the DEP and the county are notified, and then DOH would probably come out and then sample just to be on the safe side. But again, you know, just because there's, say, like an overflow at the treatment plant that creates some sort of spillage on the facility, which would alert the county that an event happened, that doesn't necessarily mean that that event had any impact on the bayside or oceanside water quality. So people sometimes make a big jump to, oh my God, something happened at the treatment plant, therefore there may be a problem at Key Biscayne Beach. You know, so it's the issue of warning is actually relatively complicated. And again, this gets back to sort of like a legal question about, well, what sort of liability what sort of liability might the village be taking on by putting out a warning, and is that warning consistent with, say, what the DOH might be putting out, or inconsistent with what the DOH might be putting out? And then if something happens, how does that expose the village? I don't know those questions.
Yeah, I just have a question. I know this is but it's the only tie I can make. Riptides. How do they warn beachgoers of riptides? How do they identify them and then warn them effectively?
Typically, they're lifeguards.
Right.
So there's that. And if you're swimming at a beach that doesn't have a lifeguard, it might not necessarily have a riptide warning. You are swimming at your own risk when you swim at a beach without a lifeguard, you know. And for beaches that have lifeguards, where they are,
that's enough.
You know, they're trained about high surf warning, you know, riptide warnings, whatnot.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
So,
I think you're going to study this. I kind of share Brett's impulse about doing analog communications. Nothing like confronting a sign when you're actually in the location.
Yeah.
Just a thought, if we could possibly leverage citizen scientists in some way to be more informed and not rely on single source points of information, maybe that would help.
we can reach out to them. I can also speak with Miami Waterkeepers and see what kind of ideas they may have. You know, the first concern that comes to my mind in thinking about this is, you know, we can put out a warning at our beach paths because those are sort of like our public access points. But then does a condominium put out a warning for their residents, and is that on them? Then if something happens to their resident because they swam or didn't swim because of a warning that they may or may not have gotten from their condo, how does that work relative to then the warning that we put out at, say, North Path of Oceana or the South Path of Oceana or the Path at the Sands? You know, I don't know how to answer those.
My understanding on is that the DOH advises, and the local municipality may or can put a sign according to how they see it. That's how I understand it. That's how it was done.
I don't know.
You know,
think that
I don't know if there's any concern or any additional legalities, but my understanding is that it's up to the municipality, if they want to further advise, that they may do so.
So we get three forms of communication. One, we get from the water keepers who works for the village directly to do it. Number two, we get one from the Florida Department of Health. They also do periodic testing. And the other one that Roland mentioned about if there is an incident at the wastewater plant, they will identify that there is a spill. Now, that they won't say whether, like he said, whether it's impacting us here. Obviously, it raises people's eyes because it comes out as a press release out of the county. If we're going to do this, we're probably, if this is a system we want to put in place, we're going to have to err on the side of safety, which is going to be, we're going to shut down the beach quite a bit. So we've got to be careful about where we're going here, because if it's going to be my choice to do it, I'm going to err on the side of total safety. If anyone says there's an issue, and that's what our residents are expecting, the flags are going to go up.
Again, I want to emphasize on discretion. They allow, it's a discretionary call by the municipality, I guess, to further advise based on what they say.
But we have no ability to confirm or deny whether they're right or wrong.
No,
I really think it's a discussion. I think that, as the manager mentioned first, this is an item that he should bring back. I think that that the location of the sign is important. I think that there are uniform beach warning for example, flags. There's laws on this, as Roland said. I think that let the manager come back and give his recommendations on it. I think you're right. At certain areas, and as Roland said, there are signs that have been put up, I've seen, not on the beach, but on our right of way, or, that notifies people. So I think that it's something that we're probably not going to solve tonight, but let him come back, because there are other implications.
And we have, just to follow what Chad has, and this occurred, I don't know, maybe about 6 weeks ago, plus or minus.
Yeah, I remember.
We had an incident where Department of Health test, which is right by the beach club, and they put up a sign at the beach club. That's it.
Because that's where they.
Because that's all they do.
Right.
So they don't go up and down the beach. They just put up a sign.
I mean, that's what they consider to be advisory through the internet and advising others, and we can be equal or more stringent.
The thing is, they can only put up a sign in the area where they actually got a sample from that showed positive. They can't say, I'm going to put up a sign because the entire beach is positive. They don't know that. They just sampled at one location, and at that location, the sample came out above a certain threshold. Right. So they put a sign there saying, you know what, there's a beach, there's a swim advisory. Right. And to be clear, because there's a swim advisory doesn't mean that someone's going to go swimming. They're necessarily going to get sick. It's not like you're jumping into a toxic soup. It's, if this threshold is, 70 and it comes up 71, that would trigger a swim advisory.
I get the discretionary call.
So again, that's where it gets a little bit complicated, because again, it's sort of like, well, the bacteria level was here and it exceeded this threshold, but is the bacteria level exceeding a threshold 100 yards up the beach?
But they're the ones, it's important to know that they're the ones who call the area that is limited for swimming. So they may have taken a couple of samples, but they define an area, or they call out the spots. If you look at the little website they got, they call that, or through the Twitter, whatever they do. I think, again, going back to kind of, again, a circular discussion, but going back to our call of making it's a discretionary call by the municipality to identify what locations or how we intend to prevent folks from swimming. And I think that goes back to what the manager's saying, he may go, the full guns and say,
well, I think we got to be careful to say about preventing people from swimming. You might just be advising them. You're advising them that you took a sample and it exceeded a certain threshold for bacteria, and it's their choice as to whether or not they want to swim or not swim. It's sort of on them. You're not closing the beach. With DOH, when they issue a swim advisory, they're not closing a beach. They're just saying there's an advisory, it's on you. Now, if it's a lifeguarded beach like Crandon, then Crandon can choose to say, we're not allowing people to swim. you know.
All right, let's let staff come back to us with different recommendations. Let's go to the meeting schedule real quick, and then we'll do 2 or 3 more items, and my Christmas present to get you out of here. The schedule is all the way in the back. Does anybody have any problems? I would want to get rid of the July 30th meeting. It's kind of like, you know, that's everybody's.
Ruins the summer.
Huh?
Happy birthday. No meeting, I know.
Okay. Any other dates that people see problems with? We look to see that it didn't conflict with school schedules, with Jewish holidays and Christian holidays. I think we're pretty good. Any issues? Staff, any issues?
The only thing I would say, and I understand why you do not want to do the one in July, and I fully understand. The only reason why it's on there, and I want you to take into consideration, is we've got a lot of major construction work going on. All of our construction takes 2 readings, and which means this could have an impact and delays on the work we're doing.
Why don't we just have that meeting only for construction items?
Or let's just call it tentative, you know.
I would just add that you also typically set your millage ceiling in July. We have to send it in by the first week in August. So you typically, historically in the village, there's been a meeting at the very beginning of July. So you could do that.
Can we do it at the budget workshop?
You won't have the full numbers until July 1st. So if you wanted to bump it back until you get the full numbers, that's up to the manager.
Would it work for the manager if it did it in early July?
Could we do, I think we could do is once the information is ready, then, you know, call a special meeting to get that done. That way we could, you know.
I don't know whether you recommended it, Mr. Mayor, but, you know, if we could make that July tentative, July 30th, 20th, I believe it is. Sorry about that.
July 30th.
Yeah, sorry about that, Councilmember Sardinius. Call it tentative. We can do both if there is a construction project and the time for the millage. Or is that too much right in the middle of
the problems
people's
if you do the problems if you do a special meeting? It's going to be really hard that nobody has this on their calendar already, trying to move stuff around because everybody's going to be doing something. It's probably better to have at least a tentative date that we all can try to work around if needed.
Would a date in the second week in July work for the same purpose instead of the end of July?
Is that enough time for you after the workshop?
Yeah, from millage perspective, yes.
And in terms of your construction scheduling?
I don't know till we know, right? And that's kind of why we space them out. You know, we don't know what comes up.
Well, and you can call special meetings, right?
Yeah, I was taking it off to give staff some time off too, so.
Why don't we keep it tentative, and I'll be zooming in because I'll be out of the state at the end of July, but I can keep a date.
Likewise.
All right, let's leave it as tentative.
And if we determine we don't need it, and we can do, you know, I get where Councilmember Moss is going on. If it's not on his calendar, it's we want to know at the beginning of the year when things are going to happen.
So you want to keep it on the 30th, or you want to switch to the 9th since a lot of us are here for the 4th?
You said to the 9th?
Yeah, that's the Tuesday after the 4th. Or the 2nd before the 4th.
That won't be enough time to turn around on the 2nd.
Okay.
Because we get them on the
Oh, you get
1st.
the numbers on the 1st.
We'll just bring cake for us.
You get the numbers on
the 1st.
On the 1st.
July 1st.
So why don't we move to July 9th?
July what?
9th, you said?
Yeah.
The week right at the Tuesday after
4th of July is on Thursday, and then the following Tuesday is the 9th.
Seems like a lot of folks are out that time, right? End of July, August.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point, there's probably going to be a lot of us on Zoom, whichever way you do it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the 9th, Mr. Mayor.
I kind of figured you were gonna be here for your birthday in March, right?
Okay, let's put it tentatively the 9th.
Okay.
What's the restriction on how many people we need to vote on it?
Well, I mean, technically, you're talking about for the millage?
Yeah, July.
Technically, the manager can set it. But some of you may remember that when John Gilbert was manager, he often set it. But the typical process is that the council sets it. So there is no vote at that time other than just a majority vote.
Majority vote, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try it that way.
Remember, we're just doing a max millage at that point. It's not setting the millage.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go to monument sign. Discussion.
Good evening. So, I wanted to bring up the monument sign issue because currently the code states that they shouldn't be there. I don't like having something in the code that I should be enforcing, but by precedent haven't. So really what I'm asking for is some clarity and direction on how to proceed. So I think it's worth a little bit of stroll down history lane because I think the reason this was enacted originally back in one of the first things council did in '93 was because at that time I think there were a number of large monument signs, sort of typical suburban strip mall overhead signs with big stacks of the shops that were there. And those are obviously gone. So what we're left with is, I think we have 10 signs that currently violate code. That's 5 commercial, 4 institutional, AKA religious institutions in this case, and 1 government institution, which is the library. Also has a small monument sign.
One single family house.
A single family home?
Homeward, the homeward bound one?
I'll need to add that to my list.
It's not much though.
Well, they are, I mean, I'll have to check on that because there's certain, you're allowed to have certain signage, and if it's a wall, there's like, that doesn't mean that these are the only signs, but these are the only monument signs that we have. And so I'm seeking direction because the default condition is that I will start to enforce and, need to issue notices of violation that these are non-compliant with the code. Or we can change the code. There's a bunch of directions we can go in to change the code. As we did last year, we actually changed the code to allow these to continue for multifamily properties. So those are no longer not in compliance. We could grandfather existing signs, although I think certain properties that don't have them might feel that that's unfair. So there's a disadvantage to that. There's another option would be to allow certain new signs, but under very strict standards that are similar to those existing signs. And so this is the full range of possibilities. I have opinions about this. Obviously, a number of shop owners and commercial properties and even the institutional properties will also have opinions. But we have gotten to a point where, and I have the averages and we have measurements and good information about all of them, about sort of the average size and typical size of those that are left. For the commercial properties, they're quite small. Normally, they're less than 6 feet. They're less than,
Would it be okay to grandfather them in until we figure out what to do?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
One question I have for you is, how many of the signs are actually a sign for a business versus a wayfinding sign of an address of a building or a name of a building?
Direction.
Yeah,
so we have 5 total commercial signs. I don't think I got to that level of detail. But there are a number that are still specific businesses. I think probably, the one that is like Citibank has one that's for Citi.
And the arcade.
Yeah, so
the empanadas actually just recently reskinned that sign.
They keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe it was like 5 years ago we
Oh,
discussed this like at nauseum. You know, it was
worse
crazy
than
how much
kiteboarding.
and people packed in here. But I thought we landed.
What was your experience with it?
What I thought we landed was that we were okay with the wayfinding at a very small scale. Like I think the Square has one where it just said the building's name, but we were not okay with having businesses starting to put their logos out on the street. And one of the things that triggered it was where that empanadas one. I think before it was like
It was
T-Mobile.
Before that, though, it was small
arcade.
each.
Oh, it was
tenant.
each
It was
one.
said the arcade, and then it listed the different tenants in smaller print. And then I think it was part of bringing T-Mobile in. To sign the lease,
They gave
they
them that whole
required some signage, and so then it was this big purple T-Mobile that prompted the conversation.
Yeah, but I thought we landed that wayfinding for one building having a small little
But
name
I don't think
outside
we
was
actually
We never did
codified
anything.
anything.
Yeah.
We did, yes, we did more though. We worked a lot on this. And I think we developed something that was approaching a proposed draft revision ordinance.
Oh.
For example, we saw merit in the church signs that were inoffensive as compared to the T-Mobile sign, which not only because of the somewhat garish visual was positioned in a way that was kind of incompatible with the siting of the building. It was squeezed in an odd way, and it created an uncomfortable situation. So we were very, I think, thoughtfully calibrated about what we were going to try to actually regulate. But it wasn't to eliminate the regulation. It was to tailor the regulation to a condition that would be palatable in Key Biscayne.
And Frank, wasn't the T-Mobile the only sign for a business that triggered this whole thing? Are there other signs for
Citibank is just before it.
Citibank.
I think Wells Fargo might have
Also,
one. Do they?
No, I don't think
Or it's
they do.
just on the building.
It's on the building.
Doesn't the Square have a sign?
Actually, Wells Fargo, when I first ran, they called me and they were like, I think I was even filling out all the stuff, and they're like, how do we get a sign out here? I really want to put it, all of our Wells Fargos have these monuments on. I'm like, you can't. Because every business would want to have one of those at the end of the day, and it would be absolute chaotic going down
We
Crandon.
worked a lot on an ordinance.
Okay,
I'll see
so
what I have.
let's do this.
Yeah, you were working on it.
Can we, does the sense of council agree on grandfathering in and about one of you three that were already worked on this? Would you want to volunteer and have a committee?
I'd like to volunteer with.
Okay, you have a committee
accept
with
information
with
from all
Jeremy and the
comers.
manager and bring us something back?
The one thing about grandfathering, I'll use the example of the residential, the single family. I'm not sure that whatever we do by way of a mandatory regulation is gonna find that palatable.
Mayor, Councilmember Kaplan, maybe the right word is not grandfather in this context, but instead it's that there's a direction to the manager not to enforce regarding it, because.
And maybe a zoning in progress?
So, yes, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, because I think the issue that Jeremy is running into is we have an amortization provision, right? That's what you're referring to, that would force him to enforce. But to the extent that you guys are looking at this, the manager's office can hold off enforcement. We're not grandfathering in anybody of anything, and then we'll come forward with the regulations.
That sounds
Yeah,
good.
I like that, because grandfathering, then when we go back and change it, I feel like it feels like a personal attack.
And I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but St. Agnes has approached us regarding a sign. And, you know, they're wrapping up their construction
And other
projects.
churches have signs and they
Other
don't.
churches have signs.
Okay.
Although there is an additional issue, which is one of those churches has a sign in the right of way, which is also not allowed in the code separately. And I mean, we can't track down how that happened in any case, but it's there.
We'll deal with it.
Okay,
was there before the
we've
street was
we've
paved.
got some marching orders. Iguanas,
If you would, Mr. Mayor, Todd will come up and talk to you. We've executed the contract. Todd will be available to discuss the details on what we do on a regular basis. And
So it's finished?
It is done, it is signed, but there's two parts to it. One is the daily operations, or weekly, monthly, and then there's if we have, let's just call it a high payoff opportunity.
So, we went from 2 days a week to 3 days a week that they're on site. We actually reduced the cost while increasing the occurrence. And then we have a sum, like the manager stated, is available for a couple of different things. One, if we have an opportunity where the weather gets cold enough that we can really cull the population. Two, we've had incidents like when we opened the splash pad that became a highly frequented area by the iguanas, and when obviously we didn't want them.
They like your splash pad too?
Yeah, they did, and they liked, droppings where it became a serious issue for us. So we concentrated them in that area.
Okay.
And it made a tremendous difference. And then often we find that, especially when we're sodding fields, but they burrow in the fields. And when we find that at St. Agnes or the school, we make a concerted effort to curtail that behavior by eliminating the iguanas and protecting our facilities.
And if you recall, when the iguana guy was here, I think back in August timeframe, we can also use this when we find nesting and eggs during mating season as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be huge if you tackle the nesting.
I need to run my pool. I really like my pool.
You can get a cat for that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a cat. That's what I've been told.
Yeah,
get a cat, they'll disappear.
As long as it's a cougar.
So, and it's the same company we have been using.
Yeah. Talk about the county doing something that might help us.
Yeah, the county parks has put out a bid for iguana removal. I think it's great because as the other gentleman stated, when you have them to your north and to your south, while we're working on managing our population, it's great that our partners are as well, especially to the north. They did limit some of the more effective ways of removal in their agreement. But it's a step in the right direction, and we're happy to see that the county's made that step.
Good. Great. Okay. Any other business that we need to take care of?
Happy holidays.
The immediate flood control is what, 50% finished, or?
We're beyond 50%, but Carol, why don't you come up and give us an update?
So the immediate flood controls on area C and E are completed, and right now we're working on A and B, which are on the north. We have finished all the concrete work, and we should be starting on the milling and resurfacing this week. On track to finish on time by the end of January next year.
Okay. Excellent. Questions? I think that unless I hear anything else for the good of the order,
To adjourn?
move to adjourn.
2023, huh?
Say what?
Holidays.
Is that last meeting for 2023?
That's right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Group hug.
Thank you all. And with that, I wish you all a great holiday season, and I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor.
Adjourn.
No discussion?